This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Droopy Doll down the center of the racetrack. Strike the Moon coming after. Great Hot doing the better work toward the inside. Then Dr. Diamond's Prize. Droopy Doll running on from the far outside. What a renewal of the Lexus Raven Run. Photo for the win. Great Hot or Droopy Doll in a time of 1 minute 21 and 3/5 seconds.
La Vie Lumiere and La Wally are head-and-head second and third, but it's all Explorer by 5 past the 16th pole, and Explorer devastates the competition with an easy stroll in the Oakley, presented by Oak Tree Racing Association.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Oh, late charge from Simply in Front. Simply in Front looking for room between horses. She's right alongside of Choice Yacht. Suggesta's there on the outside. Simply in Front. Suggesta at the line. Simply in Front threads the needle through traffic down the stretch for Ben Curtis and wins the First Lady.
Here comes King of Steel under Frankie Dodori on the near side. Fierce and Steiner by a half length. He's a neck, he's a head, and King of Steel, he gets up the win. He wins the champion, and Frankie Dodori, he salutes the crowd on his farewell ride, and his favourite race course is King of Steel in the hands of Frankie Dodori.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Just one more Breeders' Cup Challenge race left to go. It comes across the pond, the Champion Stakes. Good morning once again, everyone. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, welcoming you to the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. This, the show that launched a network, and it's all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Happy to have you back with me for the next 3 hours on Sirius 162, XM 207, our affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Today's show and next Saturday's Equine Forum are going to be spent getting you ready for the Breeders' Cup, which, in case you're wondering, is now only 12 days, 11 hours, 59 minutes, and 35 seconds away. The Breeders' Cup returning to Del Mar. You have pre-entries coming out on Wednesday. Always a exciting time for those of you preparing to listen. There are a multitude of championship races, right? And there are full fields in pretty much every single Breeders' Cup race. And there are horses coming not just from all over the U.S., but from all over the world. So it takes some time to decipher which horses are going to be best used on your tickets, however you're playing the Breeders' Cup races. It takes a little time to handicap those races. And I can remember years and years ago when I was, this is going back 3 decades before I moved to Kentucky, my dad ran a variety store in Massachusetts. And I would get so excited when the pre-entry edition of the Daily Racing Forum would come into the store. I didn't get a lot of work done that day. I always had that in front of me as I was trying to wait on customers. I'm sure my dad loved that. But I would be poring over the past performances. And then, of course, I'd take it home with me and I'd pore over the past performances until late at night. And I would do that until – I would almost have my bets organized, or at least the horses I liked organized, by the time the actual entries were taken and the post positions were drawn. But it was such an exciting time. And that's what's going to happen this Wednesday when the pre-entry announcement comes out and we know which horses are pointing to each race. Horses will have preferences, first preference here, second preference there. A lot of things to look forward to over the course of the next 12 days. This morning, we're going to take our first look at some of the European contenders who are expected to make the pilgrimage to Del Mar. Our HRRN analyst, Bob Nastanovich, who you hear alongside Bobby Newman on many of our weekday shows, he follows the Euros all year long, and he's going to be here with me after our first break at 8:15 Eastern to share his thoughts on some of the horses that he has his eye on that maybe you're not as familiar with. Because let's face it, even me, do I follow European racing like I follow U.S. racing? No. The big days, sure. The big races, yeah. But not day in and day out. And that's where Bob is so good. I think you'll enjoy hearing from him in just a few minutes. I'm also going to be joined this morning by jockey Ben Curtis, who captured the first Grade 1 of his career on October 4th when he guided Simply in Front to victory in the First Lady at Keeneland. And he did it for his longtime friend and his longtime supporter, trainer Eddie Keneally. Ben is going to join me for our Road to the Breeders' Cup segment. Simply in Front, now expected to take on the boys in the Breeders' Cup Mile after that victory in the First Lady. So we'll talk to Ben about that performance a couple of weeks ago and then look ahead to the Breeders' Cup. You're going to hear from NYRA and Fox Sports analyst Acacia Clement right around 9:40. She will look back on the Breeders' Cup Challenge races in New York, and not just the winners of those races, but also the horses who finished behind them, which very well could be poised for a rebound at the Breeders' Cup. Which horses that didn't win does Acacia have her eye on as contenders in some of these Breeders' Cup races? And all of this, as I'm getting you ready for the Breeders' Cup here this morning and then next Saturday morning, I don't want to neglect the storylines in the graded stakes that are being contested this weekend. And with that in mind, trainer John Ortiz will join me later in the show, 9 o'clock Eastern. John has Quiet Side in the Grade 2 Lexus Raven Run at Keeneland this afternoon. Quiet Side returning to action for the first time since her sixth-place finish in the Kentucky Oaks back on May 2nd. Haven't seen her on the racetrack since, at least not in the afternoons. He also has Winfinity in the Grade 2 Sands Point at Aqueduct. So we'll get a chance to hear from John 9 o'clock Eastern. That should be a lot of fun. And speaking of all the Breeders' Cup theme conversation, I'm going to throw out the poll question right now. Which Breeders' Cup race are you most excited about? Again, just 12 days out. Which race are you most excited about? I think the Classic's going to get a lot of votes here, but I'm going to give you a few choices. Of course, you got, 14 championship races? The other category may be the winner here. I'll give you the Classic. I'll give you the Juvenile. I think the Juvenile is always exciting. It's always a race that you want to see who the next potential future star is in the sport. The Winter Book favorite for the Kentucky Derby is the horse that typically wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So I'll give you the Juvenile. And then how about the Distaff? I was going to go with a turf race for the third selection. But how about the Distaff? This past week we said farewell to Horse of the Year Torpedo Anna. I'll talk more about that in just a second. She was so good winning the Breeders' Cup Distaff last year. Won't get a chance to do that here in 2025. But because of that, I think it makes for a very wide open renewal of the Distaff. And maybe that's the one that you are most excited about at this year's Breeders' Cup. And then the fourth category is other. And if you click another other, make sure you comment and let me know which other race, other than the Classic, the Juvenile, and the Distaff, you are most excited about. And feel free to tell us why. And if you don't you can do this all on social media. You can go to @HRRN on X, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. You can cast your vote there with this poll question. Or you can email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. Feel free to let me know why you're excited about a race other than the Classic, the Juvenile, the Distaff, if you click the other category. And if you like the Classic, if you like the Juvenile, if you like the Distaff, feel free to elaborate there as well. I'd love to know why you're looking forward and are so excited about those specific races. I mentioned Horse of the Year Torpedo Anna. My goodness, did she give us some memories, didn't she? She's now officially retired. That announcement coming out this past week. Keeneland, Hillendale, and Kenny McPeak Racing all sending out a combined press release. And here was the question. She is now going to be retired. She'll reside now at John Sakura's Hillendale Farms at Alapa. That'll be her new home as she gets ready for her second career as a broodmare. But here's what Kenny had to say in terms of the reasoning behind making the decision to retire her. They could have run her if they wanted to. But here's what he said. He said, she's been examined by several veterinarians. Of course, this coming following her disappointing effort in the Spinster. Dr. Bramlage of Root and Riddle, one of the renowned best veterinarians in the sport, Dr. Bramlage found some very mild bone bruising, which is consistent with horses in work at her level, and she could go back into training in 90 days, but we have opted to retire her. She owes none of us anything. It would have been great to see her come back, but she would have missed the Breeders' Cup, been out for 3 months, and then bring her back for a 2026 campaign. Torpedo Anna, she retires with more than $5.4 million in earnings. She won 10 greatest stakes races. And that's going to be pretty special to see her babies when they get to the auction ring, when they go to the racetrack. It'll be fun to follow her babies. Now, a 20% share of Torpedo Anna is going to be auctioned at Keeneland's championship sale on October 29th at Del Mar. So that's something to keep an eye on, too. Start saving your pennies. You only have a few days to buy in on Torpedo Anna. That won't be cheap. She was pretty spectacular. And farewell to the horse of the year, and thanks for everything, Torpedo Anna. So in between all of this Breeders' Cup and stakes race conversation here this morning, I'm also going to tell you, you're going to hear from a man who can tell you how to enhance your holiday parties or any event that you're going to be looking to spice up a little. Stan Sauer is the man who is the founder of Derby and Dance Party. And I've been telling you about them for the past couple of weeks here on the program. The newest member of our HRRN sponsor family. And let us know. If you want to become a member, more than happy to help you out there too. But Stan reached out to us. He said, man, I love your show. I'd love to hear you talk about Derby and Dance Party. And it's been fun to do. And you're going to hear from the man himself when he joins me later in the first hour of the program. And he'll tell you what went into the thought process of putting these together. And by the way, these parties are now used by a number of major corporations for their holiday parties. So stay tuned for that conversation, 8:35. Give you something to think about as you're planning your next holiday party. 10 o'clock Eastern kicks off hour number 3 with the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully will have 3 races for you to watch and wager on with TwinSpires this afternoon. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History. And at 10:30, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin will both join me for I Ask, They Answer. And we will continue to talk about some of the horses making their way down the road to the Breeders' Cup. But we'll also focus on a few other topics. Many of you have taken time to send questions in for Dale and Tim. And we appreciate that. They love getting questions from you. I'll work in a couple of those questions later in the show at 10:30 Eastern. So a lot of things to get to here this morning, but before we get to this first break, let's check in with our Lee Delapina. He has this week's Impossible Trivia question. Lee?
Thank you, Mike. Which American jockey popularized the crouching, forward-leaning riding style used by all other jockeys today? No Googling. We'll give out the answer at the end of the show.
I don't think this is going to be an easy one. Well, that's why we call it the Impossible Trivia question. The answer coming up 10:55 Eastern. Challenge yourself. See if you can get this one right. I'll reveal that answer toward the end of the program. Kicking things off, talking about the Europeans with Bob Nastanovich next on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Send your mare to Maryland. After she foals here, breed to one of our stallions, and your 2025 foal is eligible to be a registered Maryland bred, giving you the opportunity to earn significant bonuses. And beginning with 2-year-olds of 2025, Maryland bred and Maryland sired horses will earn 40% higher breeder bonuses than out-of-state sired runners. Maryland, a foundation of greatness, a bright future ahead. Learn more at marylandthoroughbred.com.
Dear racing fans, we've been waiting for you. We've been working, prepping, training, putting together thrilling races, high stakes, favorite traditions, and fresh experiences. From right on the rail to the top of the hill. Whether it's your first meet or your 50th, we can't wait to welcome you back this fall. Love, Keeneland.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
First Mission's got dead aim on him, though. Skippy Longstocking, he's beaten on the rail third. Here comes First Mission on the inside of Banishing to snatch the lead away. And it's First Mission drawing clear, edging away for an Oaklawn handicap win.
Now Highland Falls has put away Arthur's Ride. Pyrenees moves into second. It is Highland Falls. What an accomplishment for Flavien Prat as he wins another one, this time the Jockey Club Gold Cup.
That's Highland Falls rolling to a 4-length victory in the 2024 renewal of the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and multi-millionaire First Mission capturing this year's Oaklawn handicap by 2 lengths. Grade 1 winner Highland Falls and multiple Grade 2 winner First Mission will both be joining the Darley Stallion roster for 2025. You can learn more about these exciting stallion prospects by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Rebels Romance moving now. Rebels Romance takes the lead from Camo Spirit as they make their way to the top of the stretch. There goes Harvard is next. Farbridge trapped in behind horses, no place to go. Then Gold Phoenix and Wingspan, and on the far outside, Rousham Park from behind, but Rebels Romance has built a big lead here. Rousham Park is cutting into it. Rebels Romance by 2. Rousham Park coming. Rebels Romance, Rousham Park. Rebels Romance, a Breeders' Cup winner again. Rousham Park was second. Shariar was third. Then a photo between Wingspan and Gold Phoenix.
That's Larry Colmus with the call. Rebels Romance winning the Breeders' Cup Turf for a second time last year. Also took it in 2022, looking to pull off the hat trick here in 2025 if he can win it for a third time. Boy, did he look good last time out in New York. We will see how that plays out. Bob Nastanovich set to join me momentarily. He has his finger on the pulse of the Europeans throughout the entire year. But before we get to Bob, I told you that Stan Sauer is going to join me at 8:35 Eastern. He is the man who came up with the concept of Derby and Dance Party. And you can now add Derby and Dance Party video horse racing to your next event. And I'm telling you, it is really, really cool. It's being used by so many major corporations now. Whether you're hosting your own personal horse racing watch party or it's just a company gathering, a holiday party for all of your employees and your clients, the fully customizable Derby and Dance Party video horse racing is going to be a surefire winner with your guests, and it's going to take your event to a whole new level. And here's the cool thing. You don't need any horse racing knowledge. Absolutely not required. And no party is too large or too small. You can learn more about making your next party a Grade 1 winner by visiting derbydanceparty.com. That's derbydanceparty.com, or you can call them directly, 844-MY-PHILLY. The way to get in touch with them, 844-MY-PHILLY, and you can check out some cool videos of some of their other parties that they've done on their website, derbydanceparty.com. Well, Bob Nastanovich joins me now. You listen to him throughout the week here on HRRN, and here he is to tell you all about some of the top Europeans pointing for the Breeders' Cup in just 12 days. Bob, appreciate the visit, my friend.
Hey, great to be on the station's flagship show, Mike.
Yeah, great to have you on board, my friend, and looking forward to talking about some of these Euros. Let's start with the horse that we just heard coming out of the commercial break, Rebels Romance. Certainly has the look of a contender after that last race. Is he the horse to beat in the Breeders' Cup Turf?
As far as we know, until we see the list of pre-entries, Rebels Romance, now 7, I believe, just been a fantastic horse. We really have gotten to know him quite well as a North American horse at this point. At this point, I don't really. He's just a globetrotter, a proper, globetrotter. Just a fantastic horse. So yeah, from what we've seen in this country, he's the horse to beat. The most intriguing competition would come from Minnie Hawk, who's a 3-year-old filly for Aidan O'Brien. I guess the most notable thing for Breeders' Cup fans this year in terms of the Aidan O'Brien invasion that I expect to see in nearly full force, without too much knowledge of the specifics. I can only guess until the pre-entries come out, is that Ryan Moore. Ryan Moore is going to be out for at least until next year. He rode for about 60 days, Mike, if you can imagine, with a broken femur. And didn't tell anybody about it, and I guess the pain just got so insurmountable. So the chief rider in his stead is now, of course, the very good Christophe Soumillon, but Ryan Moore is such a proven commodity on Breeders' Cup Day. But Mini Hawk, a 3-year-old filly, has dominated that division. In fact, Soumillon was recently criticized when finishing second in the arc behind Dara's for moving too soon on her, and she only got beat ahead. She's 5 for 7. She's a daughter of Frankel. She's just a world-class filly. So I imagine she'll be cross-centered in the filly and mare turf and the turf, and hopefully bounce back from a wonderful performance in the arc, in which maybe she should have won.
How about the ARC winner, Darez, who you just referenced, coming for the Breeders' Cup or going to stay home?
I would be quite surprised if he showed up in the pre-entries, because there's a lot of major forces in European racing that year in, year out, for various reasons, show little interest in shipping to America at all. And really at the top of the list is, the legendary Aga Khan stud. You just don't see those colors in this country very often. And obviously the horses are good enough to compete, but for whatever reason, they've shown little interest in American racing. There's a lot of major trainers also that rarely, if ever, ship to the United States. The one that comes to mind first is William Haggis, who's a very strong force, top 5 trainer based in Newmarket, and he hardly ever ships them over. And it's really because the owners and the breeders, some prioritize those races. Obviously, Coolmore and Godolphin do, and that's plenty. But then, you see a lot of high-quality horses come from all over Great Britain, certainly from Ireland, and and hopefully we get a few from France. Obviously, it's always very intriguing to have French horses in the Breeders' Cup. And one great thing about Amwager, of course, sponsors the Weekend Stakes previews. They have fantastic coverage of French racing, which is a real treat to watch. That's only been going on for the last few years, so it's nice to catch up on at least their big races.
Bob, which other Europeans planning to be at the Breeders' Cup are you going to have your eye on as likely contenders when they make their way to Del Mar?
The big question mark is going to be in the juvenile division, because there's a host of good juveniles. But, to be quite frank and just to be fair, perhaps I'm on a few days too early. I've only heard, and it's a very, very tricky to predict who's going to be in the Breeders' Cup, other than, the major league horse, the filly Mini Hawk, who I imagine, will be cross-centered in the filly and mare turf, but likely go in the turf because it's such an important race to Coolmore. But I imagine that, obviously, the champion miler, the one who won the Woodbine Mile, who also, just got beat at Deauville, the Godolphin horse, he's notable speech. He's a proven force. We can expect him, but then, the best 3-year-old probably this year is Field of Gold. John Gosden, Thady Gosden trained him. He's running today here pretty soon. And I'm unsure if, I can't imagine that he'd turn around this quick. So, that's a big thing about the way the schedule works out is that, basically their version of the Breeders' Cup is going on right now. We've got 5 Group 1s at Ascot today. I do love a horse at 9:05 a.m. in the Sprint who's a good price in a Sheeran. But, you've got Calandigan running. You've got Ombudsman running, who's a possible, I think, to turn around and come to the Breeders' Cup. And then you have, Delacroix, who aside from being 2-1 in the Epsom Derby and running 9th, has been pretty flawless this year. So that takes 3 huge names off the list, and it's very rare that they would run at Ascot, then turn around and run a couple weeks later in the Breeders' Cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you do think that there's a chance we might see one, maybe a couple of horses come from there?
I don't know. It's of course, how horse racing is. You got to see how the horse runs and see how they come back. Same with the ARC. The ARC Day in general, with all of its Group 1 races, is a different set of circumstances in terms of the ground. I mean, usually it's soft ground. Usually those horses are primed for ARC Day, and the Breeders' Cup, in its uniqueness, both the tight turns and the firm turf, rules out a lot of horses that are bred for kinder, softer surfaces. So, specifically speaking, it's just right now completely difficult to predict. But I think you can expect a very strong presence from Aidan O'Brien, from the Gosdens, from obviously Charlie Appleby. So the usual suspects will be there.
Yeah,
I mean they'll be there. I just don't know this. Even though I follow the news constantly, of course Emma Berry's been on the network several times. She doesn't know either, and she's the European editor of TDN. So, it's at that stage where I think they're probably deciding right up to the minute until they have to turn in entries for pre-entries, I believe, on Monday. It's kind of you're gonna have Ben Curtis on the show, Mike. That's exciting for me because Ben Curtis, before he came over here, before people really got to know who he was or how good he was, I cashed some nice bets on him at Fairgrounds the first year. But he rode his 1,000th winner in the UK for a really good friend of mine, a trainer named John Barry. And I believe it was at Redcar Racecourse. Ask Ben if he remembers his 1,000th British winner if you have a chance.
Yeah, I'm quite sure he does. Yeah, I mean, a guy who just picked up his first career Grade 1, and he did it at Keeneland, and he did it for his dear friend Eddie Keneally. I think the whole story here is just fantastic with a guy like Ben Curtis.
It's amazing. He was very accomplished, had a long-standing and successful career in Great Britain, and decided pretty late in his career compared to a lot of these guys that come over, like Biscuitza, a guy like him. He was a kid. Yeah, I mean, it's great to have him, and he's really, a proven commodity at this point. He was fantastic during the spring meet. He's just a really, really super talented guy. Of course, his exploits on the Asmussen horse when he shocked the world at Fairgrounds that day, and eventually became second choice. Ran a subpar race, of course, in the Travers, but obviously it was a very tall task, as they say, to compete against Sovereignty. But horse escapes my mind the name right now, but yeah, he has that really nice horse for Steve Asmussen. But he's just an outstanding rider, and it's nice to see that people are taking note and using the guy because he's incredibly skilled on both surfaces.
Bob, can I put you on the spot and get a pick for the Champion Stakes?
Yeah, it's quite shockingly, the early betting is really, really the one that's on the drift, as they say, is here's a pedigree you'll recognize, Delacroix, the Irish horse by Dubowie out of Teppen. So
that's not bad pedigree.
It doesn't get much better than that. And Delacroix has been fantastic aside from the Epsom Derby. Just this morning he's gone from 3-1 out to 5-1, which is a very significant move. Ombudsman, the Godolphin horse, William Buick rides for the Gosdens, a son of Knight of Thunder. He is a true and proper 10 furlong horse, which is, significant. This is 2 furlongs shorter. It's 1.25 miles instead of 1.5 miles, like the Arc is. Calandigan is just an outstanding French horse, but he strikes me as more of 1.5 mile horse. So he'll need a pretty lively pace, and here he might get it. The French horse who represents Barcelona and Graffard, of course, the connections of Doris. Calandigan's their best horse. He's 4 now. Always fires. I think it's going to be close. I think that Ombudsman will hold off Calandigan. And there are some, this race has a more wide-open look than just the top 3. There's 11 in here. I'd love to think Al Merrick, the 8 horse, who's, got a lovely pedigree as well. 5-time champion rider, Oisin Murphy. Hard to believe he's now won it 5 times. And Andrew Balding's had probably one of the best years of his career, and he's been around forever. Al Merrick's got a chance, but I'm surprised to see that Delacroix is so unfashionable in the betting.
Talking with HRRN analyst Bob Nastanovich. You can catch him alongside Bobby Newman throughout the week on our weekday programs. Bob, you heard me do that live read for Derby and Dance Party, and you're going to hear from the founder, Stan Sauer. He's coming up next after this short commercial break. But you're no stranger to having people dancing in front of you because you're a highly accomplished musician. You play in a band that is extremely popular, Pavement. You travel all over the world. What's next for the band?
I'm disappointed to report that this is going to be an unusual year for me on Breeders' Cup. Our next gig, our only gig on the schedule for Pavement, is in Mexico City. And the unfortunate thing for me is it's on November 1st, which is Breeders' Cup Saturday. So I've jokingly said to a few people, finally I get to make money on Breeders' Cup instead of losing it. But believe me, Mike, I'll figure out a way to get some bets down. I remember a Breeders' Cup a few years ago. I was in Berlin, and I was, backstage. Everybody's getting ready to play, and I was just, sitting on my computer, pretty much demanding not to be interrupted because I believe it was the turf sprint right before I went on stage. So I'll figure out a way, of course, to know it's one of the wonderful things about horse racing these days is it's pretty easy to get a bet down anywhere in the world if you've got a phone and a decent Wi-Fi connection.
Bob, safe travels there. Enjoy every minute of it,
Mike.
and really appreciate you being with me here this morning, my friend.
Yeah, I wish I could have given you better information, but things just aren't defined in terms of entries. But I'll certainly look forward to seeing that pre-entry list on Wednesday. And it's pretty much the same thing every year with the juveniles.
Yep. Bob Nastanovich, ladies and gentlemen. Bob, safe travels. Enjoy it.
Thank you very much, Mike. Have a great show.
All right. Coming up next, Stan Sauer will join me. We'll tell you more about Derby and Dance Party. You want to stay tuned for that, especially if you're planning a corporate event or a holiday party. That's next after your Legends of the Turf and this short commercial break.
In early August of 1919, Samuel D. Riddle's big chestnut 2-year-old Man o' War captured his 6th straight race and, continuing on unbeaten, carried 130 pounds, unheard of, by the way, of current racing practice, to that win in the $10,000 United States Hotel Stakes at Saratoga. The speed and stamina of Big Red had already become legendary, but there were horsemen who had reservations as to his ability to sustain his remarkable speed over a distance of ground. And those self-same doubters felt there would be a real test in his forthcoming scheduled races, the Sanford and the Hopeful, when he would face the very best 2-year-olds in training at the time. The son of Fair Play was a veritable giant, standing better than 16 hands and weighing in at nearly 1,100 pounds. He looked more like a 4-year-old rather than a 2-year-old. Oh, there were challengers to his credentials, all right. Trainer Jimmy Rowe had 2 in a Wild Air and Upset, although Man o' War had whipped Upset in the aforementioned United States Hotel. And then there was Miss Jemima. On Saturday, August 13th, 1919, 7 horses answered the call to post in the Sanford Memorial. One of the meeting's largest crowds, better than 20,000, were on hand to view the attempt of the great Riddle 2-year-old to remain unscathed. John Madden had Captain Alcock in the field, and the most likely contenders were Golden Broom at 2-1 and Upset, who was 7-1. Man o' War was the post-time odds-on choice for the betting public at 1-2. Golden Broom was the inside horse with Frankie Ambrose in the irons. Man o' War was in post 6 with his regular rider Johnny Loftus in the saddle. Golden Broom acted up considerably both in the post parade and at the start, showing both his nervousness and his greenness. But when the flag dropped at the start, Golden Broom was away winging. By the time the field had gone a bare 16th of a mile, Ambrose had the speedy youngster 2 lengths in front. Upset, Harry Payne Whitney's fine juvenile, who was also away like a rocket, and settled into second place with Donna Conn third. Man o' War had gotten away poorly, highly unusual for the Riddle standard bearer, almost being left at the post. By the time Loftus had Big Red settled into stride, he was 6th as the field hit the clubhouse turn. By the time the field swung off the turn into the stretch run, Golden Broom was still winging away clearly in front. Man o' War had improved his position to 3rd, cutting down the margin with every stride. It was Golden Brown by a length, Upset by an open 2, and Man o' War 3rd. The rest of the field had given up the chase in mid-stretch, with Man o' War 2nd. Upset had Man o' War by a length and a half at the 16th pole, and Loftus dug in on Big Red, asking Nicole for everything he had. 100 feet from the wire, the margin was 3 parts of a length, but Man o' War was running out of real estate. Upset was hanging on tenaciously. As they hit the wire, it was Upset, the number 4 horse of Harry Payne Whitney, still a neck in front of Man o' War, who was gaining slowly. Golden Brown had barely enough left to hang on for third. Captain Alcock finished fourth. The horse appropriately named Upset had indeed lived up to his moniker, and forever from that day on became part of a thoroughbred lore, legend, and mystique as the only horse ever to defeat Man o' War. It all happened in the Sanford at Saratoga, August 13, 1919. A great moment in thoroughbred racing.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Top consignor Scott Mallory is offering an exciting November lineup, starting at Fasig-Tipton with Weanlings by Forte and Gunite, both out of multiple stakes producing female families. At Keeneland, the Scott Mallory consignment features exciting Weanlings by Yopon, Jackie's Warrior, Loggins, Zandon, and Taba, as well as mares in foal to first-year sires Seize the Gray, Muth, Kingsbarns, Blazing Sevens, and domestic product, and established sires McLean's Music, Violence, and Authentic. There's something for every buyer at the Scott Mallory November consignments.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Torpedo Anna still cruising along here, and she's starting to get away from Raging Sea as they come to the top of the stretch in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, and Torpedo Anna begins to move away. 1 furlong to go. She's in front by 2. Raging Sea still there, trying to fight for second. Then Candied in third. But this brilliant filly's going to take them all the way. Torpedo Anna, what a year for her. She won it by 3 over Raging Sea. And then it was Candied and Elise Verite.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. Happy to have you along for the ride right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. Brian Hernandez was aboard for that ride on Torpedo Anna in the Breeders' Cup Distaff last year, and my goodness, how good was she. Larry Colmus had the call. Unfortunately, we won't get to see Torpedo Anna defend her Distaff crown, but she owes none of us anything. She was simply brilliant throughout her entire career. Now retired. That news coming out this week. She will start as a broodmare at John Sakura's Hillendale at Alapa, and a wonderful home for her. And no doubt she will be bred to the best of the best, and rightfully so. Well, you heard me talk about it earlier, and I've talked about it the past couple of weeks. Derby and Dance Party. You say, Baron, what the heck is that? Well, you're about to find out. Stan Sauer is the man who invented Derby and Dance Party, and it is being used by so many major corporations now for their holiday parties, and so many people are just using it to enhance their own horse racing watch parties or any kind of party. It's a lot of fun. Stan is with me now. Stan, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, my friend, and super excited to talk to you about this. You know, I've been talking about it the past couple of weeks, and thank you for your support. But, you know, people will still say, okay, Baron, I hear you talk about it. It sounds fun. We've been to the website. We've seen the videos. Stan, fill me in. What is Derby and Dance Party?
Okay, my friend. Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be on this morning. I was supposed to be in Oslo, Norway, picking up my Nobel Prize, but I said, hey, that can wait. I mean, I gotta talk to Mike this morning.
Well, you know, you're not the first person to tell me that, Stan.
Mike, we've been doing Derby horse race themed parties since 1989, parties and events. And the custom horse race party kit, or the Derby Dance Party, is meeting and party planners all over the country are raving about the excitement and high energy this is bringing to their events. It's fun-filled, interactive entertainment. Everyone can play at the same time. No crowd is too large or too small. If you've got a ballroom, if you're doing an event for a large corporation, and you have 1,000 people in the ballroom, it's awesome. If you're doing a smaller company party for a car dealership or a medical firm or a law firm, it fits in perfectly. Or a party in your own home for an HOA or just a family and friends get together. So it's high energy, seamless, nonstop entertainment. We try to encourage you to do music between the races, and that's why we call it a Derby dance party. You don't have to, but it really enhances the whole experience. Now, what happens, Mike, is you would send us 30 names, up to 30 names of people that you know will be in attendance that you would like to be a horse or stable owner. And our professional announcer goes into the studio and does a voiceover using those names on the video. We're the only company in the world, by the way, that does a custom horse race video. And people get screaming and hollering for their horses. I think we did a sample for your studio using your talk show host. And an example would be if you own a horse, and when that horse goes into the starting gate on the screen, it'll say, stepping into the second starting gate out of the Mike Penna stables is Magic Mike. People get screaming and hollering for their horses, and hopefully they've gone to the website, which is horseracepartykit.com. There's another website which is derbydanceparty.com. We have two divisions in the company, Mike, to clarify it for your listeners. The retail division does the party kits. That's a kit that we mail out to you. It's got the folding bedding windows in it. It's got all the supplies you need, and we have two kits available. We have the Philly kit, which is for the novice. A lot of people are not familiar with pari-mutuel betting and how to bet at a track. Probably some people in Kentucky are that way. Probably not many, but wouldn't doubt that there wouldn't be a few. But that's for the novice, and it's very simple, easy to use, user-friendly for any age. And then we have the Thoroughbred kit, which is for the more experienced horse racing enthusiast. That's got the horse bucks in it, and again the folding bedding windows and all of the materials that you would need to use the horse bucks and to make it a little more realistic. Now, I would like to caution your listeners about one thing. These kits are not designed to be used with real money. When you get into real money and the aspect that your guests have an opportunity to lose something, then you got to be in compliance with gaming laws, and we like to avoid that. You know, we don't put the guest in a position where they can lose anything. So you don't have to worry about being in compliance with gaming laws. It's very simple and it's fun. It's so much fun. So they're the two kits that are available, and the pricing on the kits is the Philly kit is $285. It's $385 if you name both the horse or stable owner and the horses, because the announcer has to stay in the studio longer because of the races individually. And then the Thoroughbred kit is $440, and then that's $100 extra if we name the horses as well. So that's the pricing on the two kits. A lot of major corporations use these for their meetings. We ship them to Microsoft, Delta Airlines, IBM, Mobil, Penske, Sprint. We're getting ready to do one at the Ocala Thoroughbred Center in Ocala, Florida, and that's going to be for a medical firm. The Ocala Equestrian Center, to be specific. That's going to be for a medical firm. That's December the 5th. But we went to California for Citibank of New York, and I say we went. The other division, in addition to the retail division, which is the party kits, is we have the affiliate division, and we have a network of affiliates all across the country. These are DJ, MC guys that will actually come in and do the event for you. And it's awesome. I mean, it's amazing. We just I'll share one quick war story with you. We did one recently for a Goodyear Rubber Company at the Galleria up in D.C., Washington, D.C., at the Inner Harbor, and it was for their national sales meeting. It was 850 people. It was for their, again, national sales meeting, and they named the horses after their regional managers. And they had 3 20-foot screens up in the ceiling, and the noise, it was deafening, Mike. It was deafening. So whether you're doing a company party for a large corporation or a smaller company like a car dealership or a law firm or a medical firm or just a party in your home, a birthday party or an anniversary party. It's a perfect fit. A perfect fit.
Stan, how much
that's kind
lead
of an
time?
overview.
How much lead time do you need? If I'm planning a Breeders' Cup party in 12 days, is that too soon? Do I have to give you more lead time?
We'd like to get 2 weeks. We'd like to get 2 weeks so that we can work it into production.
But it can be done.
Yeah, it can be done. I mean, we have done it. We have these affiliates all over the country that order them for their Derby dance parties, and we've had them call us with 3 days' notice. You know, I just sold a Derby dance party, and this client wants this really badly, and we figure out a way to do it. We figure out a way to satisfy the client. But I tell you what, Mike, we've never ever had anyone that just didn't say they love us. There's a stable in Florida, a thoroughbred stable in Florida, and the stable owners did this, and now they've ordered like 3 in a row, 3 years in a row. They do a party for the workers there on the farm, on the thoroughbred farm, and they have one of their buildings, and they put up a big screen, and of course name the horses after the workers, and they love it. They go wild. So it's amazing. As again, we started this company in 1989, and it's grown. And I tell you what, your listeners, they would not be dissatisfied. I can promise you.
Stan, I can hear you fact-checking everything with it. I assume that's the boss you're talking to.
That is the boss. That's my wife. That's Donna. She's in charge of the production. So during the day, I'm in the office and she's in the studio. So scheduling production, but she's the boss. So 38 years, Mike. 38 long years. No,
okay.
38 happy years.
Congratulations on that. She is wonderful. I've spoken with her when I call up there and we have our conversation. She's absolutely fantastic. Let me ask you this, Stan. How did you come up with the concept in 1989? Where did this come from?
Well, my passion for the sport grew as a result of my father owned racehorses, and my uncle was a licensed trainer. This is back in the late 40s, early 50s. And, I mean, that's probably when you were about 24, 25 years old, Mike. But,
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
But
I was walking hots for them.
Owned racehorses. They were fortunate enough to own 2 real good winners. They owned Blue Ribbon and Airway. Both of those horses did very, very well. And so I sort of inherited a passion for the sport. And I'll share this real quick with you because I know you're only going to have me on for about 3 hours, so I need to move along quickly. My wife and I started this in 1989, and back then we did a stage show. We got the idea from shipboard horse racing, but it was high. I mean, it was high quality. The horses moved down the track according to the rolls of 3 dice, but when we call the race, it was at the same cadence as the real race. And models dressed in the boots and the pants and the silks moved the horses, and people screamed and hollered like you wouldn't believe. And we did the same thing. We custom designed the race program and put the company's logos on the front. And the newspaper here in Richmond, the Richmond Times-Dispatch, heard about us. I mean, it was all over the city. And they called us and said, we've heard about this indoor horse racing. We called it Winter Circle Indoor Horse Racing. And they said, we'd like to come and see one. So we happened to be doing one that Friday night for a big law firm at the Hilton. And they came down, and they ran a story, Mike, and it was on the business page. It was half a page, and it was in color. And then the rest of the story was on a second page. Well, it happened to be a slow news day, and it was picked up by the Associated Press. It was in papers all over the country. We were getting calls from California and Idaho, and so, they say to start a successful company, it takes a strong faith, hard work, and a little luck. So we had all 3 of those, and it just really evolved. And then we transitioned to DVDs so we could take it into people's homes and into meeting venues. And then we went from that into eliminating the DVDs and doing it electronically.
That's such a great story. So let me recap with you, Stan. So somebody listening right now is saying, boy, this sounds like a neat thing to include at my next event, whether it's going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month down the road, 2 months, whatever it is. And they contact you. They go to derbydanceparty.com or they call you, myphilly is how they can do that. They get a hold of you. They say, Stan, we're looking at doing this. What do I need to know? Walk me through the steps that take place, and then how do you do it?
Our support is very, very strong. I mean, we do everything we can do to make sure your event is an overwhelming success. They send us 30 names, up to 30 names of people that are going to be there. Now, let me address that, Mike, because it's important. Why 30? There are 6 horses in each race. Now, why do we use 6 horses? There's a reason for that. We ship these a lot for fundraisers, for 501c3 nonprofits, and they make a lot of money. They don't use real money, but we show them how to sell sponsorships for the races and how to tap other sources of revenue so they don't have to worry being in compliance with any gaming laws.
That's great.
The reason there are 6 horses is if you own a company and you're having a holiday party and Mike Penna owns one of the horses, if you have 12, 14 horses in the field and your horse is running next to last or last, you're not going to hear your horse's name called or your name called. And so, that's what people like. And so with 6 horses, the races are close, they're exciting, and everyone hears their name called frequently, multiple times. So that's why we do it that way. But they send us the names of the people they want to own the horses. We custom design the race program, put their logo on the front. We email them a copy of the race program to approve, make sure we haven't misspelled anyone's name. And then once they approve it, we have the race programs printed. But if you go on the website, go to horseracepartykit.com, horseracepartykit.com, and make sure they look at the short video, and then they're welcome to call us, and we will walk them right through it step by step.
Stan, it's fantastic. Again, I appreciate your support and your trust in Horse Racing Radio Network to get the word out. But it really is a fantastic product, and I hope that so many people pick up the phone and call you and reach out to you, because this is a great way to enhance any party, especially with the holidays coming up. And
it is.
Really
People
appreciate
love
you
it
being
for
with
holiday
me.
parties. I mean, we have clients that place their order a year in advance.
Yeah.
They do it every year because their employees look so forward to it. But it's of course, you and I both know I'm preaching to the choir here, the popularity of the sport. I mean, the Kentucky Derby is the second most watched sporting event on TV, second only to the Super Bowl. This past year, it drew 40 million viewers. So the popular 20 million viewers. Did I say 40? See, she keeps me straight, Mike.
It drew a lot of people, put it that way.
It drew a lot of people. Second only to the Super Bowl, but it's people love it, and we just get so many positive testimonials that people have used these party kits. For, as I said, the small in-home parties or smaller businesses or larger corporations. It's amazing.
Well, Stan, congrats to you and to your lovely wife, Donna. All the best moving forward with Derby Dance Party, and we'll continue to spread the word here on the network, my friend.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and tell Michelle we said hi.
I will do it. Stan Sauer, derbyanddanceparty.com is where you can learn more. That video is up there. You go to derbyanddanceparty.com. It'll pull up the video. You can see what it's all about, and it's really, really cool, as you heard Stan walk through, and my thanks to him for taking a little time this morning. Okay, coming up next, I'll get you ready for hour number 2, tell you what's ahead in hour number 3, but there's going to be plenty of Breeders' Cup conversation and plenty of conversation talking about the big day or the big races at Keeneland today and up in New York. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
Did you know? VA home loans are a key to home ownership for those who served.
I would tell anybody who is interested in getting a VA loan to just do it.
For me, the best thing about the VA loan was the simplicity of it. I was expecting, government paperwork. It was going to go on forever, and it just wasn't.
Since the down payment for a VA loan is minimal, we were able to purchase this home and then use the money that we were going to use as a down to actually fix up the home.
And the only way we could do that was because the nest egg that we had saved for the down payment, we didn't have to use because we went the VA route.
This is a wonderful benefit that veterans can take advantage of.
In the military, we make a lot of sacrifices. We're away from our family a lot. And with the VA loan, it's a way that it makes it easier for us to get a home.
To learn more about VA home loans, visit va.gov/home loans.
We have the world at our fingertips, inspiration in our touch, and power in our hands. Our hands, gentle enough to hold the next generation, yet strong enough to build movements that can change the world. Our hands can build relationships, frame ideas, and empower communities. We have the ability to share and imagine, create and comfort, love and heal the world around us. And it doesn't stop there. Right here, in our hands, we have the power to save a life. If you see a teen or adult suddenly collapse, call 911 and push hard and fast in the center of the chest.
The power is in your hands.
Anthem Foundation is the proud national supporter of the American Heart Association's Hands Only CPR campaign.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Simply Joking on the inside, nudged along to keep going. Quiet Side alongside, and these two are 6 lengths clear of the others. It's a match race coming off the turn between Simply Joking and Quiet Side. Simply Joking, Jaime Torres on the inside. Outside, it's Jose Ortiz and Quiet Side in a ding-dong battle with 1 furlong to go. Quiet Side on the outside, neck and front now. Simply Joking, resilient from the rail. Quiet Side digging in. She's got a half-length lead, and she has the fantasy victory. Quiet Side off to the Kentucky Oaks after back-to-back wins here at Oaklawn. Simply Joking second. Running and Gunning picked up pieces third. Princess M2 was fourth.
Matt Dinnerman with the call. Quiet Side, so impressive before her effort in the Kentucky Oaks, and she has not been seen since going in the Kentucky Oaks. We'll see her later today at Keeneland in the Lexus Raven Run. That win, by the way, coming in the Grade 2 Fantasy. That was on March 29th, and she's tough. She's really tough. She gets a rematch, by the way. You heard the name Simply Joking, who was in that race with her, finished second. She gets a rematch with Simply Joking coming up this afternoon, and going to hear from her trainer, John Ortiz, coming up shortly. He'll tell you what's been going on with her, what he's had to do to get her back to the races and to get her back into peak form, and expecting a big effort from Quiet Side. He also has a horse in the Sands Point coming up in New York later today, so we'll get to that coming up shortly with John Ortiz. Poll question this morning. I'm asking you which Breeders' Cup race you're most excited about. And I gave you a few choices, but, listen, with 14 championship races, there's a good chance that many of you will cite a race that I'm not including in the poll. The Classic, the Juvenile, the Distaff, or other. And I'm kind of shocked. There are 0 votes for the other category right now. So a lot of you thinking it's among those 3 that you're going to be most excited about. And the Classic running away with it. And I can see that. I get it. The Classic is, well, number 1, it's the Classic. But number 2, this is such an intriguing year with the top 3-year-olds taking on some really good older horses. You got the defending champion, Sierra Leone, in there. Sovereignty. What's journalism going to do? Can he find a way to get past Sovereignty and everybody else? White Barrio, a former Breeders' Cup Classic winner. Check that. I guess he's going to the dirt mile. So you're not going to see him in the Classic, but he is a former Breeders' Cup Classic winner. But there are so many big names in this division. Fierceness, another one. So I get it. I get the Classic getting a lot of votes, but I'm a little surprised that in the Juvenile, too, the Juvenile's getting a little respect. But I'm a little surprised that a couple of the other races, the Breeders' Cup Mile, the Juvenile Fillies, the Filly and Mare Turf, the Sprint's always contentious. Maybe not quite as sexy as the Classic, but it's always highly contentious, and I think it's a decent year with some of these sprinters, too, at least in terms of being an evenly matched group. So you can go to @HRRN on X. You can do that, too. Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, and continue to vote on the poll. I will update the results later on. And if you don't do social media, you can email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. All right, coming up in hour 2, I mentioned trainer John Ortiz. He'll kick it off momentarily. Road to the Breeders' Cup. Jockey Ben Curtis will join me at 9:20, and at 9:40, Acacia Clement, NYRA, Fox Sports analyst. She's going to look back on the challenge races in New York and look ahead to the Breeders' Cup. Which horses coming out of those races, maybe not even the winners, does she expect to have an impact when they get to Del Mar in a couple of weeks? That's all ahead in hour number 2. Before I get there, though, I do want to remind you, many of you still in Lexington for the Keeneland meet. If you haven't done it yet, make your reservations for Tony's of Lexington. You want an incredible meal after the races? I'm telling you, you won't get a better steak anywhere in the country. It is the best steak that I have ever had with all of our travels with HRRN. Tony's is by far the best. The service is great. The atmosphere is fantastic. Make your reservations now. You will not be disappointed. I'm pretty sure they're filling up quickly if they're not already full. But as Tony likes to say, there is always room for one more at our table. They will do their best to accommodate you, and you won't be disappointed. Tony's of Lexington, located on Main Street right behind Rupp Arena. I'm back with hour 2 right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Just over a third of the way through this edition of the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Welcome back. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, taking you up until 11 a.m. Eastern. If you missed the first hour of the program, you can head back to our website, horseracingradio.net, to listen to the podcast whenever you have some time. And you can listen to all of our shows on our website or your favorite podcast platform. So simply type in Horse Racing Radio Network and follow along each and every week with all the shows we bring your way. And speaking of shows coming up, how about our Breeders' Cup Countdown shows? Bobby Newman, Jude Feld. You become accustomed to hearing them leading up to the big events, where it's the Kentucky Derby or the Breeders' Cup. They're going to be live from Del Mar starting on Tuesday, October 28th. They'll be there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning. They'll be joined by owners, trainers, jockeys, breeders, handicappers, all to get you ready for the Breeders' Cup World Championships. You can tune in from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. That's 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific. Live from Del Mar, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, our Breeders' Cup Countdown shows. October 28th, 29th, and 30th. You can see a complete schedule on our website, horseracingradio.net. John Ortiz set to join me momentarily. Looking forward to talking to him about the return of his really talented filly, Quiet Side, in the Lexus Raven Run. And then we'll look ahead to the Sands Point coming up at Aqueduct this afternoon, too. Go down the road to the Breeders' Cup with Ben Curtis at 9:20. And at 9:40, Acacia Clement, talking about the big races in New York and looking ahead to the Breeders' Cup. 10 o'clock Eastern begins hour number 3 this morning, and it begins as it does every week with the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully has 3 races for you to watch and wager on this afternoon. All 3, by the way, coming from Keeneland. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History. Those stories so fantastic. That's at 10:20, and at 10:30, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin with I Ask, They Answer. If you did miss our impossible trivia question, when I gave it out at the beginning of the show. We'll have the answer coming your way in the final segment right around 10:55 Eastern. But which American jockey popularized the crouching, forward-leaning riding style still used today? Now, it goes back a ways, too, by the way. That's your hint. It's not a modern jockey. Goes back a ways. The answer coming up right around 10:55 Eastern. All right, John Ortiz set to join us momentarily. We are efforting John at this moment and looking forward to getting him on the show. Had a chance to catch up with him for a few minutes yesterday, and he's super excited about Quiet Side, and he's excited about not just Quiet Side, but his horse in New York today, too. We're going to talk about that. John is indeed here. John, good morning, my friend.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing great, buddy, and really fired up to see Quiet Side strut her stuff.
Oh, no, for sure. We're all excited at the barn as well. You know, we're just happy to see her back in the on the overnight and ready to make a start.
Yeah, she should be really tough. She's 4-1 on the morning line, but she hasn't been out in a while. Her last effort coming in the Kentucky Oaks on May 2nd. What have the past several months been like for Quiet Side?
You know, they've been very, very good. I'm actually a little bit jealous of her, to be honest with you. I mean, she gets to work all hard all winter. Got to compete in one of the toughest races in America, and then she goes on a vacation. So she got to get some pretty good rest. She's been out. She was turned out for about 90 days. We did light training at the farm, and then she comes in, and she hasn't missed a beat since the Oaks, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, it's good to see. I think a lot of people were wondering where she was because she was so good before she went to the Kentucky Oaks.
Yeah, you know, she's look, you know me, I love giving horses an opportunity to develop. I like being patient with them. You know, Mr. John Ed Anthony's been extremely patient and letting me manage this filly the right way. You know, always with his guidance, it's just been so helpful throughout my career, period. But, you know, I was just happy to be able to give her, look, we campaigned her pretty hard, and Oakland's not an easy track to be on, you know that. And, you know, there's just a competition that she was up against. You know, she laid it out every single time. And, you know, I think it was just deserving to give her a nice little R&R.
Yeah, she is as consistent as they come, and that's nice. Every time you lead her over, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get her best effort. What's she showing you now, John, that gives you that confidence that she's sitting on a good race later today?
Do you know what she's really showing differently, you know, coming back from her break? It's a little bit more of maturity. Now, this filly, she's been really keen ever since she was a 2-year-old, really keen in the bridle in the mornings to train. That hasn't changed, but she's not as, you know, extreme about it. You know, she gets tough on the bridle, but she's also more sensible where she's listening to her rider a little bit more. You know, when we call him to back off, she backs off. But either way, she's still always sharp, on her toes, same attitude, but just comes back a little bit more mature mentally, I feel like, where she's just not spooking and being so skittish, like a 2-year-old, you know, so or a young 3-year-old. So I think she's just getting ready to show us that next level of maturity, and that should step her up some in her career.
Yeah, is the plan, I guess, with the Raven Run to be the starting point for a 2026 campaign with Quiet Side?
Yes. So right now, like I said, we're only focusing on just trying to get her back in the starter gate in the afternoons. I think this is a good spot to just try and turn her back around. It did come up a little tougher than I expected. It's definitely a lot more horses than I was prepared for, I think, and coming into this race. But, you know, when you have a good horse, you just got to compete with other good horses, and that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, when you're running in these greatest stakes, it's hard to duck some of the top horses, right? And a race like the Raven Run has so much history, it's always a salty event.
For sure, yeah, you know, and you know, you're competing against tough horses with, you know, with great trainers, and, you know, that's, you know me, I love being in that realm right there, so.
John, knowing that this is just a starting point for her, and again, having not been out since May 2nd, I know you feel like you got the screws tightened, but What does a trainer look for in a race like this when you have a high-quality horse that you're bringing back to the races? Yeah, you want to win, but what things are you going to look for to let you know, okay, Quiet Side's back and maybe even better than she was before?
Well, definitely she's going to have to show that in the afternoon. Again, we're in pretty tough, but she's just as tough as any of those fillies. So, I definitely want to see her, one, always. I love to see my horses finishing down the stretch. So I think as long as she's coming down the stretch, picking up horses, and, she's just competitive. We haven't even let her out fully in the mornings yet. So I think she's got a lot left in the tank, and I want to see that all out down come this afternoon down the stretch.
Trainer John Ortiz joining me here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. 397 wins to his credit. Closing in on that 400-win milestone. You probably edge a little closer to it today. At least you're hoping to, my friend.
Well, it wouldn't hurt to have a couple grade twos and to close out that 400,
Yeah, no, 100%. And the other Grade 2 is taking place in New York at Aqueduct, the Grade 2 Sands Point, and it's a $200,000 race, a little different scenario. It's a 1.1 miles on the turf. Winfinity is the horse that you have in there. And unlike Quiet Side, who's 4-1, Winfinity, a longer price at 15-1. Tell me more about Winfinity.
Well, Winfinity has been such a great purchase for Mr. John Wade. He's been we've been winning for him here with some nice horses, and this is a Virginia bred, and she's just stepped up every single time we put her out there in the field. So I'm not worried about her odds at all. I think this filly has shown a lot of diversity in her running style and her, the whatever turf or dirt. Regardless where you put her, I think she's just got a big heart, and she just comes home, kicks down the stretch every time just to barely miss her, especially the last two times. She's just been right there closing, didn't get out in time. But, I'm not worried about the odds. My dad always told me, one thing, horses don't know how to read numbers, so don't worry about that. But if you look at her performance, or her past performances, this is not a filly that you should not consider at all, because she's just got a big heart. She's got plenty of talent. I mean, she's by Not This Time, now some again mare. And, for her, both her wins have come in stakes races. And I think she's just sitting there. I just want to get her a little graded black type, and I'm not afraid of her in this race for sure. And we got a really good rider in her as well with Danilo Garcales-Rave.
You have to tell me more about Danilo, because you and I were talking about that yesterday. Danilo, not a household name like a Jose Ortiz or a John Velasquez, but here's a kid that you took a liking to, and you told me yesterday when we talked, you said he can really ride.
Oh, for sure. It's funny because I met him the year that we had, when Quiet Side was running in the grade in the spindleweight. He stopped by my barn, and he was riding in New York in the circuit, but he didn't have a jockey agent, so he wanted to take a job with me for the year and kind of get his feedback underneath him. And we gave him an opportunity. He's been a great asset to the barn. He's a great rider. It's like having your own jockey in your barn in the mornings. So he's been working every single horse. And then came down to the summertime, we gave him an opportunity to ride everything for me at Indiana. And he's been winning at a 20-win %, 50-something in the money. And more than anything, this is a rider that's just, it doesn't matter if you put him in a nickel horse or a grade 2. If your odds are 15-1 or if he's the favorite, he's literally just riding for to win each race. And he's got a really good eye of putting these horses right where they need to be early in the race. He's very smart as far as race placement is.
Yeah, Danilo Garcales-Rave aboard Winfinity for John Ortiz, 15-1 on the morning line in the Sands Point this afternoon. And you were telling me, too, that he's had to overcome a few obstacles to get to where he is.
Yeah, when he first arrived from Colombia, because he's native Colombian, but he was riding in Chile in the southern hemisphere there. And he was actually he's a good journeyman. He's ridden plenty of races. He's won a lot of stakes races down south. like I say, he just didn't have an opportunity to get a good agent, get him rolling. But right now he's on a hot streak. He got off, I think the first 2 weeks he came to the States, he was at Finger Lakes and he fell off one and broke his ankle. So that sidelined him right away. So, and then after that, it was just hard to get back into the saddle in the afternoons without having an agent supporting him. And so that's where, it's just been a long journey for him for the last year. But now that he came into our barn, he feels very confident. And, just like I said, he's got his feet underneath him right now, and he's ready to take the world on.
John, I'm looking at the past performances here with Winfinity, and you talked earlier about the fact that she has run well on pretty much any surface, any distance you put her on, and she's run in a multitude of different distances. She goes 5.5 on the main track early on in her career, then she goes 6.5 on the turf, then she's back to sprinting on the main track, then she goes long on the main track, and then her last 2 starts have come long on the turf. When a trainer is doing that with a horse, I'm always curious to know, are you trying to find what's going to suit her best and what her niche is going to be? Or were those just the spots that you like best? How does that work?
Well, with her, she's a very big filly, she's built very long legs, long back. She definitely gives you a feeling that she's a 2-turn horse. Not this time. He's got a good 16 win percentage for a turf route. Definitely he's a good sire, obviously. We all know that. And I think he can drop him on turf and dirt. With her, what I was doing most importantly with her is that she's got a Virginia bred next to her name, and I think you have to take advantage of that. And that's why we ran her. When she was a 2-year-old, she obviously went 5.5 in a stakes race because the maiden special weight didn't go. So we decided to start her in a stakes race against the Virginia bred. And that's been really the big angle that I've had with her. Now, when she's in Kentucky, that's just the condition that I had for her. And I was just reaching out to making sure that she can stretch out. The track, in May at Churchill is very competitive. You have all the best horses in the country come for that month period at Churchill. The springtime is very competitive. So she wasn't embarrassing herself. I think she ran 4th and 5th and at Churchill, routing on the dirt. But then again, when we came back to when Colonial opened up, I took advantage of the fact that she's a straight 3-year-old and she's a state bred. So I put her in that race going 7 furlongs, which, again, she's not a sprinter. I think she's a deep closer, and she manages to keep she managed to win both races because I think she's just talented. Once we put her on long on the turf, again, those were restricted state bred conditions. So I was happy to see her take to the turf in that when we moved her up to the turf, and she handles the 2 turns really well. She's a filly that you can train on in the mornings forever, and she doesn't get tired. We have to put 2-mile gallops in her maybe twice a week just to make sure we knock some of the edge off of her before it works.
Wow.
So, yeah, no, she's got plenty of endurance. So that's why I like this race again. We're looking in New York. We got a straight 3-year-old race going 1 1/8. I think the added distance is going to be really in her favor. I think I got a rider that gallops her every morning and knows her for the last 3 months. And I think giving Danilo an opportunity, I think he's going to be razor sharp with her and trying to get the best trip for her. In the last 2 races, she just had an unfortunate time down on the rail where she keeps getting trapped. So the trick today, I think, is going to be able to try to get her tipped out around the final turn and make sure that there's no traffic in front of her so she can just make that long drive that she does in every race.
John, fast forward to Friday at Keeneland. Next Friday, you send out Raining Flowers in the Grade 2 Valley View. Give me a little preview there.
Oh, let's see. Let's go. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know if anybody's ever laid eyes on Raining Flowers, but she's probably like the smallest filly I have in my barn with the biggest heart. This filly, she's courageous, she's bold, and if you could tell, up until the last 2 starts, this filly never missed the board, we were just off a nose or neck, I think, at Saratoga in a Grade 2. with Johnny V, where she just kind of snuck up the rail there. This filly, I'll tell you what, I mean, like I said, she never surprises me. We put in a good effort out there every single time we put her in the track. So I'm looking really forward to her. The Gasaways love her. You know, we've been campaigning this filly in stakes races all year. So I think she's sitting on one. I'd like to hopefully see this one come through here at Keeneland.
If I said may the force be with you, would that be appropriate?
Always, you know, as long as you're doing Star Wars things with me, I'm fine with it. For sure.
If people don't realize, you're a big fan of Star Wars, right?
Yeah, you know, it's my whole entire family. We grew up watching all the original movies, and then when Disney Plus came out, you had unlimited Star Wars, you know, geeking out every single day, especially with my kids. You know, my kids were able to jump on the bandwagon. It's just something that we love to do. We watch all the series, and you know, there's a lot of good lessons for the kids to learn, and you know, I apply them in my life too. It's just a good little disconnect from reality sometimes.
Yeah, I always thought, I don't know why, growing up, I always thought it'd be cool to be a stormtrooper. I love those guys.
I got that costume. I got about a 6-foot figurine at my house in the office, and I got a Darth Vader costume. We got it all.
I love it. Well, John, listen, man, it's always fun to catch up. Good luck with the horses this weekend, and then looking ahead to next week. All the best going forward, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me on, and it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, John Ortiz here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Yeah, huge Star Wars guy, as you heard him say. Absolutely loves it. It's a cool part of his story. He and his whole family, just big fans. All right, when I come back, we'll turn our attention to the jockey side of things. Ben Curtis will join me. He'll go down the road to the Breeders' Cup talking about his win in the Grade 1 First Lady with Simply in Front. That came back on October 4th. He'll look ahead to the Breeders' Cup for you next on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Will you accept the Breeders' Cup Challenge? The chance to compete against the best in the world? The chance to race for a piece of over $34 million in purses and awards? The chance to be a champion. Winning a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race gives you the chance to do just that, with an invitation to horse racing's biggest event of the year, the Breeders' Cup World Championships in Del Mar, where finish lines become the start of a legacy and starting gates shine on the world stage. Win a Breeders' Cup Challenge Series race and earn an automatic starting position in a Breeders' Cup race. Entry fees paid by the Breeders' Cup, a Nominator Award of $10,000, travel awards, and so much more. Here, winning a Challenge Series race is just the beginning. View the schedule of Challenge Series races happening around the world and learn more at breederscup.com/challenge.
Dear racing fans, we've been waiting for you. We've been working, prepping, training, putting together thrilling races, high stakes, favorite traditions, and fresh experiences. From right on the rail to the top of the hill. Whether it's your first meet or your 50th, we can't wait to welcome you back this fall. Love, Keeneland.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They turn for home. Choicia up the inside, and Choicia with the lead by a length and a half coming to the 8th pole. Choicia in front by 2 now. Deep Satin, Sagesta, pin up Betty, Heredia. Here's Deep Satin coming. Oh, late charge from Simply in Front. Simply in Front looking for room between horses. She's right alongside of Choicia. Sagesta's there on the outside. Simply in Front. Sagesta at the line. Simply in Front threads the needle through traffic down the stretch for Ben Curtis and wins the First Lady at 13-1.
Kurt Becker with the call. Ben Curtis getting that first Grade 1 win of his career, coming aboard the Eddie Keneally trains simply in front. It was in the First Lady on October 4th at Keeneland. Now looking at a potential engagement against the boys in the Breeders' Cup Mile in just 12 days' time. We're going to get a chance to talk to Ben Curtis momentarily as we go down the road to the Breeders' Cup in this next segment. Coming up in the 940 segment, you're going to hear from Acacia Clement, the Fox Sports and NYRA analyst, HRRN alum, very proud to say. She does a great job on television up there. And she will look at the Win and You're In races in New York and some of the horses coming out of those races pointing to the Breeders' Cup that she will have her eye on as major players. 10 o'clock Eastern begins Hour 3, the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully will be here with 3 races for you to watch and wager on with TwinSpires this afternoon. 10:20, you just heard from Kurt Becker. You hear from him every week here on the show with his Stroll Through Racing History segments presented by Keeneland. That comes up at 10:20, and at 10:30, Dale and Tim with I Ask, They Answer. And when Dale and Tim are here, we're going to talk about some of the horses in New York and California, and I'm going to find out if Dale and Tim are buying or selling those horses. We always like to play that game during I Ask, They Answer. One of the horses we're going to talk about is Intrepido, who won the American Pharoah Stakes. Most people look at Ted Noffey as the horse to beat in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, especially coming out of that really impressive win in the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity, and rightfully so. And by the way, Spendthrift, how loaded are they at this year's Breeders' Cup? Ted Noffey just one of several contenders that they're going to send out over the 2 days. But I'm going to ask Dale and Tim if they're buying or selling the American Pharoah winner, Intrepido. Interesting horse, and a horse that has a home field advantage, and that's one thing I'll bring up to them. I'm going to ask them if they feel like that home field advantage is enough to get a horse like Intrepido and the other California-based horses to the winner's circle at Del Mar. I think it certainly helps. You can kind of, as they like to say, run out of your own stall. You don't have to ship all the way out there and deal with those things. Some horses can handle the ship. Other horses don't handle it as well. But that's all part of what makes the Breeders' Cup so much fun. It's just another factor. Simply in front for Eddie Keneally will ship out that way for a potential engagement against the boys in the Breeders' Cup Mile. But boy, was she good under Ben Curtis in the Grade 1 First Lady. And Ben is indeed with me now to go down the road to the Breeders' Cup. Ben, appreciate the visit, my friend.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Let's start with that effort in the First Lady. How good was she?
She was very good. She was very good in the race. You know, she did everything that I thought would happen, which is very rare in racing. Actually fell into place, and yeah, I mean, she traveled beautiful. She picked up, and you know, she did it very well at the line.
Is she an easy horse to ride?
She's very straightforward. Very straightforward. You know, the key to her is to get her to relax. And once she relaxes, you can do whatever you want with it. You know, if you get the first step right, the rest of the race is easy. So, you know, leaving the gates, getting her into a position and getting her just to relax and kind of race economically. And once you do that, you know, as you saw in the First Lady, I was able to put her wherever I wanted in the race, and she answered my every call.
At what point in the race did you know you were sitting on a filly that was, you knew you had a major player? You were a contender. At what point in the race did you get that sense?
I got that sense before that race, actually, because I rode her in Kentucky Downs, and I know she was a big price, but I thought going into it, I said, if she turns up, especially stepping up from, you know, she ran over the 6 furlongs in Kentucky Downs, which wouldn't be her ideal. Ran such an amazing race behind AG Bullet, and, you know, going up in distance was only going to help her. So going into the race, I was actually very confident. But in the race itself, I think going past the quarter pole, when I was able to analyze where everyone was going, you know, horses were kind of spreading the turn and going out for a clear run. A few horses were dropping back, and I could just kind of see my route through to the front. And I was fairly confident at that stage. I had every chance of winning anyway.
Ben, you and I spoke, I guess it was, before the Travers Stakes, and we were talking about what do it mean to win a race like that and to pick up a Grade 1 win. That Grade 1 win finally comes in the First Lady. Put into words what that means for a jockey to get their first Grade 1 win, and I say that here in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, it's the pinnacle. It's where every jockey wants to be. You want to be in the number 1 spot in the Grade 1s. You know, it's what everyone wakes up for in the morning. You know, you come in, you know, at kind of stupid o'clock in the morning to breeze horses day after day, and you only do that, you know, living on a hope and a dream that you're going to find one that's good enough to, you know, reach that number 1 spot in the Grade 1. So when it all comes off and it all works out, it's the same as, you know, anything. It's, you know, lifting a trophy at the U.S. Open for a golfer, or you know, going to the World Cup and lifting a World Cup trophy in football. It's the pinnacle, kind of the pinnacle days in the sport. So you know, it's a massive relief because you know it's going to be a big help going forward for, you know, for your career and everything. But 2, it's just, you know, it's kind of a surreal moment. You try and take it all in. I'm lucky. I'm a bit older, so I can appreciate it. But I know when you're younger and you have big days, you don't really appreciate them. So now I can appreciate it a lot more. And trust me, I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, you know, I had Bob Nastanovich on the program with me earlier. Bob works as an analyst with us during the week on some of our other programs. And he said, you know, when you get Ben Curtis on the show, he's won so many big races all over the world. He said, ask him if he remembers his 1,000th career win. Do you remember that one, Ben?
I do indeed. It was in a place called Redcar, I think it was. A smaller track. And the only reason I remember it is I didn't know it was my 1,000th winner. And when I walked in, everyone was like, congratulations. And, you know, it was, and I said, for what? And they said, that's your 1,000th winner in the UK. And I said, oh, brilliant. So that's the reason I remember. I rode the winner like any other winner. And I came in and, yeah, it was a monumental kind of achievement to do it in, you know, one country alone. I'd obviously had a lot of winners in Ireland and everywhere else, but to have 1,000 winners in the UK, it was a good day.
How much more meaningful was it to win the First Lady, get that first Grade 1 here in the States, but do it for your longtime friend and supporter, Eddie Keneally?
Oh, it was brilliant. You know, I came over I flew over to Palm Meadows when I was a lot younger, and, you know, it was my first experience of America. He put me on actually, ironically, we were talking about it the other day, he put me on my first ever ride in Gulfstream in America, which I finished second on, which he still tells me I gave it a bad ride, which I can't quite remember whether I did or didn't. But and then he put me on my 100th winner in America, and then I've ridden my first Grade 1 for him. So, you know, to do it for people like that is brilliant. You know, Eddie and Catherine, the whole family, they've always been great to me. So, you know, it's nice to be able to repay that and, you know, have a big day for us all to enjoy.
Eddie's one of my favorite people in the sport. I've always enjoyed being around him. I've gotten to know him over the years, and he likes to have fun. He likes to bust your chops a little, but when it comes down to it, he's one of those guys that if we say that people are better people than they are a jockey, or a better person than they are a trainer, Eddie Keneally's just a good person.
Oh yeah, absolutely, through and through. You know, as you said, you know, he likes to bust your chops. We have a good few laughs together, but you know, when it comes down to the business side, he doesn't leave any stone unturned. You know, the horses are always turned out immaculately, and you know, majority of the time when they run to the best of their ability. You know, he has them tuned and ready for the day. So, yeah, there's no doubt about that.
You had a great quote after the race. You said he used to tell you were breezing his horses all wrong and that you were getting everything wrong. That sounds like Eddie Keneally.
Oh, yeah. You know, a lot of the time, even if I got it right, he'd tell me because, you know what I mean, he'd get a giggle out of it. So, yeah, no, he did. But to be honest with you, I used to get a lot of the times wrong when I first came over. So I can't blame him. It used to really annoy him.
Did you really? Why was that such a struggle?
It was my first time in America, you know, in Europe and kind of a lot of places, they don't use the clock. So it took me a little bit of time to kind of really acclimatized to what he wanted me to do. I got there. It didn't take me too long, but the first 5 or 6 weeks now, I think he was pulling his hair out.
Let's look ahead to the Breeders' Cup. Simply in front, if she does indeed make it there, which I think the plan is to go in the Breeders' Cup Mile against the boys, what did you feel underneath you that gives you the confidence she can compete?
As I always say, if you've got a filly or a mare in form, that's the time to strike. You know, especially with fillies and mares, you know, if they're on an upward trajectory and everything's going right and falling into place, that's the time to kind of strike while the iron's hot. And, you know, she couldn't be any hotter right now. She's, you know, her form has been rock solid from her win in Ellis, her second to AG Bullet over, you know, an inadequate trip and running that horse down in Kentucky Downs, moving on to the First Lady. So, you know, if you're ever going to take a shot, now's the time to do it. And she's never going to win by, and she never has in her career, she's never won by lengths. She always gets there and just wins or just does enough. So, you know, it's really unknown how much more is under the bonnet. And it's a massive race on a big occasion. And, you know, the thing about having racehorses is you do it to enjoy the big days and dream about the big days. So why not?
Ben, I should know the answer to this next question. I'm a little embarrassed that I do not. But would this be your first trip to the Breeders' Cup?
It will indeed, yeah. It will indeed. Yes, indeed. So, really looking forward to it.
What do you do to prepare yourself for the big day, the Super Bowl of horse racing, if you will?
Well, listen, you go back and, I mean, I've already done it. I've watched the Breeders' Cup for years. You know, it's like anything for me from, you know, Royal Ascot, the Breeders' Cup, the Arc. Every year you'll find me in the same spot watching it. And you know, and if I don't watch it in real time, I'll have it recorded and go back and watch it. So, but I'll go back and watch a lot of replays, you know, of the races in the past, and you know, just really analyze every kind of scenario, plan together in my head, and try and execute it on the day to the best with racing, because there's so many variables, things can change. So, but you always like to go out with a plan. You know, when you see the final sheet of runners, you kind of can figure out where everyone will want to be. Del Mar is a track where you want to be a little bit closer, you know, a little bit closer to the pace because the stretch is a lot shorter. So, but I don't think that'll be an issue for her. You know, her big thing is to make sure you time her last bit of a run that, you know, you don't use it too soon. You use it at the right time. So, you just go in, analyze all the variables, and hope it all falls into place on the day.
Ben, she's in good hands with you, my friend. All the best when you get to California. We'll be cheering for you. Good luck with Simply in Front.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate having me on.
You got it. Ben Curtis going down the road to the Breeders' Cup with us here on the Horse Racing Radio Network on this Saturday morning. Big day for him, right? Big day on October 4th. Going to be a maybe even bigger day for him when he gets to Del Mar and that run in the Breeders' Cup Mile with the fillies Simply in Front. When I come back, we'll turn our attention to New York. Acacia Clement will join me to take a look at some of the challenge race winners and some of the horses coming out of those races that didn't win that could have an impact when they get to the Breeders' Cup in 12 days. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Send your mare to Maryland. After she foals here, breed to one of our stallions, and your 2025 foal is eligible to be a registered Maryland bred, giving you the opportunity to earn significant bonuses. And beginning with 2-year-olds of 2025, Maryland bred and Maryland sired horses will earn 40% higher breeder bonuses than out-of-state sired runners. Maryland, a foundation of greatness, a bright future ahead. Learn more at marylandthoroughbred.com.
Hey, this is Bobby Newman. Join me every Friday afternoon to dive deep into handicapping the races. We'll cover the live action from some of the biggest tracks in the country, talk to some of the major players in the game, and hopefully make a little money along the way. You can also call the show to share your opinions, ask a question or two, or maybe just vent about some bad beats. It's Betting with Bobby every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Sirius 162, XM 207, online channel 999, or streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They reach the top of the stretch. Scotland is just looming in behind the two leaders. The leader is Light the Way, Patriot Spirit. Scotland moves towards the outside. Doc Sullivan's trying to rally on. Crazy Mason starts that roll down towards the inside. Patriot Spirit has now put a neck in front. Scotland, Doc Sullivan, they travel as a pair trying to catch the leader. Patriot Spirit, Javier Castellano inside the final 16th. Patriot Spirit is almost there. Patriot Spirit wins the Vosburg, presented by Army Mule. Crazy Mason did rally for second.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Chris Griffin with the call of the Vosburg. Patriot Spirit now making his way to the Breeders' Cup following that win. There are several horses coming from the Big Apple that will head to Southern California. And not just the horses that won those races, but some of the horses that didn't win that could rebound at the Breeders' Cup. And Acacia Clement does a fantastic job working with NYRA and working with Fox Sports, and she is with us now here on HRRN. Little A, good to hear your voice.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Doing very well. I understand you are making your way to Far Hill now.
Yes, I'm having a great time in traffic on the way to New Jersey from Long Island, but it is, I think it's my 4th year covering this day over at Far Hills. Obviously, the American Grand National, we get to see Snap Decision try to defend his title. People are tailgating. It's a gorgeous fall day. It's just a really, really fun experience of racing.
I know exactly what that drive is like with you. I remember making that drive from, what do we go, from Saratoga down to Monmouth, right?
Yes, the year American Pharoah won the Haskell.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah, he was okay.
Well, listen, we've seen some pretty good horses come out of New York. We just heard the call of the Vosburg. Talk to me about some of the horses that really stood out to you, some of those winners.
Well, we've seen a lot. The Breeders' Cup win and you're in races are a lot of fun. You played that Vosburg with Patriot Spirit, and just for trainer Michael Campbell, I was actually hosting on the desk for that race, but Wolfendale did an interview with him afterwards, and he was just saying what a win like that means, and being able to go to the Breeders' Cup with what's become a really, really cool horse in Patriot Spirit that I think kind of found his home going a bit shorter. And I think it did kind of highlight for all connections, going to the Breeders' Cup is not an easy feat. Getting there is really special. Obviously, it's very hard to win, but it's hard to get there, too. So I think the Breeders' Cup win and urine races have been a lot of fun to follow. Obviously, on a personal note, my husband, Miguel, won a few of them, including with some 2-year-olds. So that's really exciting for our family, and just getting a chance to see who heads forward and lines up in the gate. And I think in particular the Breeders' Cup Classic, with a lot of horses that ran in New York, including Sovereignty, who I've gotten to follow all year, that's probably one of the better classics we've seen in the last several years.
Yeah, Miguel has really just done incredible work since the passing of his father earlier this season, and he took over. I know it's been a difficult transition there, but he has made the most of those opportunities. And when you think of Miguel Clement and his Breeders' Cup contenders, names like Deterministic and Farbridge kind of come to mind. But you mentioned some of the youngsters. Tell me about some of those young horses that ended up getting to the winner's circle.
Now, we had a really special weekend a couple weeks ago with 2 2-year-olds winning the 2 win and urine races for turf horses. Botas winning the Pilgrim, which is the win and urine for the juvenile turf, and Intricate Spirit winning the Futurity, which is the win and urine for the juvenile turf sprint. So really exciting to have those 2-year-olds. Obviously, for Miguel, I know carrying on his father's legacy and continuing the stable at the same high level of standards as it has been is really important, and it's really important for the whole family and for, you know, all the owners that have been so supportive. But the 2-year-olds is what you dream about, right? That's where the excitement starts, and you can start looking towards the future. So Botas undefeated, and excited to see what he can do moving forward. He's been training great, and Intricate Spirit is quick, and there will be some other very fast horses in that juvenile turf sprint, but just very happy to be there with those and be represented.
What's the latest on Deterministic and Farbridge?
Farbridge is going to wait, I believe, for the Pegasus World Cup turf.
Okay.
Potentially Deterministic that as well. Deterministic needed a little bit of time. He had a couple of really intense races in Saratoga, and he was incredibly game in those performances, but just doing right by the horse and backing off, giving him some time, not pushing to get to the Breeders' Cup. So looking forward to seeing what the future might hold for him as well. But he's obviously a very special horse, having given Miguel his first Grade 1 win.
Was there a horse or two that maybe came up a little short in those Breeders' Cup Challenge races that you say, okay, that's a horse that is a great rebound prospect when they get to Del Mar?
That's Tawny Port. He was beaten in nose in Grade 1 up at Woodbine, the Canadian International, and he finished second in the 2 marathon races over at Kentucky Downs. So because he's been running in those top-graded stakes, he's actually finished second in his last 3 starts. But he's actually going to take a swing at the Breeders' Cup turf. It's an incredibly tough race, obviously, with the Euros in particular. We've kind of seen, even when Farbridge ran in it last year, the American turf horses just usually not quite up to the same level of some of the Europeans. But Tawny Port has been amazingly consistent. I think he's earned close to $700,000 with those Kentucky Downs races just in the past month, finishing in the money in those. So he hasn't actually won in a while, but he's doing exceptionally well, and I take a swing at the Breeders' Cup turf with him.
I'll ask you about another winner. That's Ground Support, who took the Grade 2 Miss Grillo. Tell me more about Ground Support.
Well, that horse, was talk about Kentucky Downs, won pretty impressively at, 100-1 for Kelsey Danner first time out, and then came back and won the Miss Grillo and was able to kind of shock everybody again. Not nearly such a big price, but it seems like a race where a lot of fillies were going to step forward and nobody else ran. She was best in there too, so she'll probably be a price yet again going under the Breeders' Cup. But I thought a really impressive filly. Kelsey's done a tremendous job with her, and pretty exciting to see what she can do, because we talk about often, especially the 2-year-old turf races, there's so much development that's happening at this stage that they really are often the most winnable Breeders' Cup races. And so for a filly that's doing well at this point, I think that's exciting that they're going to be going forward. And you mentioned horses that have not actually won. You've got, for instance, Here's Johnny for Ray Handel, who's still a maiden technically too, finished second behind Botas in the Pilgrim, but I know they're going on to the Breeders' Cup. It's all about just who's doing well right now and taking a chance at those races.
Acacia, I asked the poll question this morning, and I asked which Breeders' Cup race our listeners are most excited about. And so far, 84% are saying the Classic, and you kind of get that. But the Juvenile is second with 12% of the vote. That's always a fun race, and I think we saw Ted Nafi at Saratoga. We saw him at Keeneland. He is the leader in this division. He'll face Intrepido, the American Pharoah winner, when he gets to California. The Champagne winner, Napoleon Solo, not going to go to the Breeders' Cup, but he looked pretty good in that race too.
It was very impressive. I can understand it is a little bit quick, and Ujipi just his third start, and he went from a 6-furlong sprint first time out, winning against Restricted Company at Saratoga on debut, to going into the Champagne. And the Champagne a mile, unlike the race at Keeneland in the Breeders' Futurity, which is a mile and 16th, and that's what Ted Nafi won. So he has a little bit of that foundation at the 2 turns. And so Napoleon Solo went fast early and fast late. He was impressive, but saying it's just not right for the horse to go to the Breeders' Cup. The runner-up, Talkin, I believe, is going to point to the Remsen, not go to the Breeders' Cup either. And then It's Our Time for Tom Amos. Horse was us, of course, on the show. It was so impressive. I'm guessing it's likely back to the drawing board, thinking maybe he doesn't want the distance. But I think even if we don't see him in the Breeders' Cup, he's still a horse that's exceptionally talented and maybe going a bit shorter in the future. But I'm excited to see what'll be next for him.
You know, speaking of that classic division, you had the privilege of witnessing so many of the top horses that are going to be in the classic during your time covering the races in New York this summer. Horses like, you got to see Fierceness, you got to see Sovereignty, you got to see Sierra Leone. Tell me about some of the, obviously those are the big names. Are there any others that you're going to have your eye on when we get to the Breeders' Cup Classic?
I think those kind of are the big names thus far. I will be interested to see Mindframe get a fair shot at the race. Unfortunately, in the Jockey Club Gold Cup last time out, of course, I read Ortiz was unseated in a very scary situation, and thankfully everybody was okay. But, I mean, that had been just, it's unfortunate, of course. Now that we know everybody's okay, it's unfortunate to look back and say we really didn't get the matchup that we were hoping for with Mindframe, Sierra Leone, and Antiquarian, who won the race. But I'm excited to see Mindframe get a fair shot because I do think he's a really talented horse. And for the first time, he'll actually go against his stablemate Fierceness. There's not much pace in the race. Sierra Leone has had contrary thinking setting the pace. Obviously, he won the Breeders' Cup Classic last year, and he's an incredibly talented. But I think it should be really interesting to see how it sets up. And I know he hasn't raced in New York, but I'm excited to see Forever Young back as well from Japan.
On paper, it looks like Fierceness could end up as the controlling speed in that Breeders' Cup Classic, which makes him extremely dangerous. I wonder if they don't get a full field for that race. I wonder if Chad Brown would think about pulling an old Wayne Lucas and throwing in a rabbit in there to keep Fierceness company.
I was wondering that too.
Yeah.
It has obviously worked, and look, like you said, it's been done since the beginning of time, and I can certainly understand the thought process in it. And Sierra Leone's a very, very good horse. Even last year, when being a victim of pace a couple of times, he was always right there, nearly winning the Kentucky Derby, running well in the Travers too. So sometimes pace dynamics just a little bit of the challenge for him, but it will be interesting to see how it does play out. One thing I will say about the pace, and I agree about Fierceness, we've seen Sovereignty, who will be the 3-year-old taking on Older, but we've seen him be able to be a little bit more forward in his races lately as he has matured, and I think that that will bode well for him in the way that this Classic is setting up.
Acacia, before I let you go, just a few thoughts on the career of Torpedo Anna. It was announced this week that the Horse of the Year is now retired, even though they could have turned her out for 90 days and brought her back for a 2026 campaign. She's going to be a broodmare. Your thoughts when you hear the name Torpedo Anna?
Well, she's been great for fans. It's been a lot of fun. I got a chance to cover a lot of her races in New York and at Oaklawn throughout the winter as well, where she kicked off her campaign this year. And it's pretty cool to see how the crowd reacted to her. She was very, very good. She showed up in so many of those big races. And it is very cool when you get a chance to see a filly be the Horse of the Year and come back and do what she did. I certainly wish her all the best. I'm excited to see her as a broodmare. I think she owes nothing in what she's done thus far. I thought her win last time out over Dorth Vader up at Saratoga was one of her better races this year, and the way that she really did all the dirty work and dug in late in that effort. So I'll always remember those special wins at Saratoga, getting a chance to cover her races. She's a very, very cool horse. Acacia
Clement, so good at what she does. Acacia, really appreciate the conversation. Drive safely to get to Far Hills, and we'll look forward to catching you down the road.
Very good. Thank you so much, Mike.
All right, there you go. Acacia Clement is, I always like to say, an HRRN alum. So proud of her and what she's been able to go on and accomplish. It's fantastic stuff. You heard earlier from Stan Sauer, who was he and his wife, Donna, the people who created Derby and Dance Party. And if you missed the conversation, you can go back and listen and say, Baron, what the heck are you talking about? Well, if you're going to have a holiday party, if you're going to have a corporate event, if you're going to have a gathering of friends to watch the races, or even just to hang out for any party and you want to dress it up a little bit, you can now add Derby and Dance Party video horse racing to that event. And it's really, really cool. Whether you're you're hosting that party or you're going to a party and you say, hey, what do you think of doing this? Check it out. Check out derbydanceparty.com. There's no N in their website. derbydanceparty.com. Or you can call them to get more information. 844-MY-PHILLY. Great way to take your event to the next level. Horse racing knowledge is not required. It fits with any party. No party is too large or too small. Check out derbydanceparty.com or go to 844-MY-PHILLY. Give them a call and check out and ask them for more information on how you can get your next party kit and take your party to the next level. When I come back, I'll take a look at a couple dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend, and I'll get you ready for Hour 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
After an exhilarating day at the Breeders' Cup races on Friday, October 31st, don't miss Thoroughbred Charities of America's Bash at the Breeders' Cup at the Del Mar Hilton, directly across the street from the racetrack. Treat yourself to a night of great food, craft cocktails, live music, and an opportunity to bid on exclusive auction items, all for a spooktacular cause that helps thoroughbreds and the people who care for them. For tickets and more information, please visit tca.org.
The National HBPA is continuously working to protect the health and welfare of horses by advocating and funding research to help reduce equine injuries, lobbying for a national testing lab to oversee and establish absolute uniform laboratory protocols, advocating for every track to undergo an annual independent surface assessment, passionately supporting off-the-track thoroughbred retirement facilities and adoption groups, and so much more. See additional HBPA initiatives at nationalhbpa.com.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolate candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Retirement can be scary, but only if you're not prepared. That's why AARP created thisispretirement.org. Because unless you've already retired, you're in pretirement, and you still have time to plan. Learn about retirement savings options, potential tax breaks, and how you can build savings over time. Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan and feel the retirement fear disappear. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, this is Mike Penna. Join me every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the show trainers listen to, Trainer Talk presented by Fasig-Tipton. From Hall of Famers to up-and-comers, you'll get to know the men and women who make this sport go up close and personally. Listen on Sirius 162, XM 207, or stream the show live on our website at horseracingradio.net. My guest this week is trainer Madison Myers. And if you miss it or want to listen again, download the podcast at horseracingradio.net or your favorite podcast platform.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
You just heard that promo for Trainer Talk with Madison Myers. She joined me yesterday on Trainer Talk presented by Fasig-Tipton. You can check out the podcast on our website. Well worth it. What a fun hour that was. Some great stories there and a very special moment for her at Keeneland just over a week ago. Hour 3 coming up momentarily, but time to take a look at a few dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend. October 18th, 1956. That's the day that Nashua, ridden by Eddie Arcaro, was paraded at Keeneland in his last appearance on the racetrack. October 18th, 1973, the day that the owners of Secretariat announced that his last race would be in the Canadian International at Woodbine. This was also the anniversary, October 18th, 1976, of Mac Miller sweeping the top 3 spots in the Long Island Handicap. October 18th, 1978 is when jockey David Gall became the first rider to win 8 races during a single program. He rode 10 consecutive races for the day at Cahokia Downs, finishing 2nd and 5th in his 2 losing efforts. And one more for you. We remember Unbridled on this day because it was October 18, 2001 that the 1990 Kentucky Derby and Breeders' Cup Classic winner was euthanized after developing colic. A sad day there, but farewell to Unbridled on this day in 2001. All right, 2 hours down, 1 to go. Hour 3 kicks off with the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully will give you 3 races to watch and wager on coming up at Keeneland later today. If your local station is leaving us at this time, continue listening to the third hour of the show nationwide on SiriusXM satellite radio or streaming at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum straight ahead, right after this 10-second pause for station identification here on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Groupie Doll down the center of the racetrack. Strike the Moon coming after. Great Hot doing the better work toward the inside. Then Dr. Diamond's Prize. Groupie Doll running on from the far outside. What a renewal of the Lexus Raven Run. Photo for the win. Great Hot or Groupie Doll in a time of 1 minute 21 and 3/5 seconds.
La Vie Lumiere and La Wally are head-and-head 2nd and 3rd, but it's all Explorer by 5 past the 16th pole, and Explorer devastates the competition with an easy stroll in the Oakley, presented by Oak Tree Racing Association.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Oh, late charge from Simply in Front. Simply in Front looking for room between horses. She's right alongside of Choice Yacht. Suggesta's there on the outside. Simply in Front. Suggesta at the line. Simply in Front threads the needle through traffic down the stretch for Ben Curtis and wins the First Lady.
Here comes King of Steel under Frankie Dodori on the near side. Fierce and Steeder by a half length. He's a neck, he's a head, and King of Steel, he gets up the win. He wins the champion, and Frankie Dodori, he salutes the crowd on his farewell ride, and his favourite race course is King of Steel in the hands of Frankie Dodori.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Still one more Breeders' Cup ticket to be punched. We talked about that earlier in the program. It comes across the pond, if you will, later today. And most of the heavy lifting has been done, though, right? Most of the Breeders' Cup tickets have been punched. The Breeders' Cup Challenge Series winding down later this afternoon. And we get to look ahead to some of the prospects we're going to see competing at Del Mar coming up in just a few weeks, and it's going to be a spectacular day of racing. And if you missed any portion of the first 2 hours, you missed a lot of conversation looking back on those victories by horses competing in the challenge races the past couple of weeks, and then looking ahead to what might be at the Breeders' Cup World Championships. Mike Penna, Baron in the backstretch, getting ready to kick off hour number 3, and we'll begin momentarily with the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully will give you 3 races to watch and wager on with TwinSpires this afternoon. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History comes up at 10:20, and at 10:30, Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin will be with me. For the final segment of the show, I ask, they answer. We'll continue to look back on some of the Breeders' Cup Challenge winners with our popular Buy or Sell segment, and we'll see which winners of those races Dale and Tim are buying and or selling going into the Breeders' Cup World Championships. But it is time now to say hello to James Scully for this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. James, good morning, brother.
Good morning, Mike. It's a pleasure to join you. It's a beautiful day. It's going to be another nice day of racing in Lexington, Kentucky at Keeneland, and excited for the got 2 really good stakes races today. I'm not going to focus upon those for the Triple Play, but I am excited to see both the Perryville and the Raven Run. I thought both the races are very intriguing.
Very intriguing. I think very competitive, wide open, and well-balanced fields for both of those races. Do you agree?
I agree 100%. The Perryville has a shorter field, but it is very well matched. You can make a case for nearly all the entrants. And then the certainly some intrigue in that Raven run with Ragtime coming off a nice win in the Dogwood, and Quiet Side coming back, her first start since the Kentucky Oaks, and some nice other up-and-coming 3-year-old fillies in there. So, yeah, 2 dynamite stakes. But I do want to say, if you're playing the races today, TwinSpires is a place to play. We have got some great promotions going on for our players. I want to mention that we have a Keeneland bet back on selected races, where if your top pick runs second, your first win pick runs second or third, we'll give you up to $10 back for your win wager. And then if you're going to be a BC player, I wanted to mention, Mike, that if you purchase your entry through TwinSpires and wager $3,000 this month of October through TwinSpires, which should be doable if you're a BC player, we're going to give you 5% back, $500 cash. Just going to give it right back to you on the Saturday of the BC. So check out these promotions and more. And we've got some great handicapping events going on. We've got a $1,000 KDBC Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge and BC Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge qualifier Saturday, today. So going to be giving awarding seats to both of those big events. So check out TwinSpires.com.
Yeah, great promotions there at TwinSpires, as there seems to be every single weekend. James, let's dive into the 3 races you've chosen for this week's TwinSpires Triple Play, all 3 coming from Keeneland. We're going to focus on races 4, 7, and 8, and race 4 is a 1 1/16 on the main track. It's an allowance race with a purse of $120,000, a very competitive and well-matched field of 9 set to go. How'd you see it?
I'll tell you, this race has a filly that showed an absolute affinity for Keeneland last spring. Granted, it was a maiden $50,000 claimer, but if you watch Take Charge Omaha stretch out to 1 1/16 that day and win by 9.5 lengths, she certainly loved the track and ran her best race. It was funny, off of that race, Take Charge Omaha then ran in all these 1 mile or less races on the main track, and then even tried turf. And it wasn't until last race, and Matthew Sims claimed her 3 starts previously, but it wasn't this last race at Churchill Downs and a $50,000 starter allowance that she got back to what she likes to do, go at least 1 1/16 on the main track. And she absolutely crushed them, beat a nice field. In fact, that field came back better rated than any of the races these rivals have been coming out of. She got a 90% speed rating, which is the best last out number on a fast track. Necessity ran on an off-the-turf allowance over a good track that she took to. But I do think Take Charge Omaha, that race is going to set her up for a return to Keeneland. Like I said, she's 2 for 2 at the 1 1/16 distance. She's 1 for 1 at Keeneland, and she's well drawn to the inside with Mario Gutierrez. So at 8-1 on the morning line, and Gutierrez was up for her last win, so he knows this Omaha Beach filly. I like number 1, Take Charge Omaha in race 4 today.
James, it's really interesting to hear you talk about that she gets back to what she prefers to do most, and that's 1 1/16 on the main track. Both of her wins, as you pointed out, coming at that same distance. This is a situation for handicappers where it's a little bit of hidden form. Even though there's a win showing in her most recent race, you can kind of draw a line through a lot of those other efforts in between her 2 wins, because they were at distances that maybe she didn't like. They were on surfaces that maybe she didn't care for. And if you just kind of put apples to apples and compare the situation she's in today with her best races, I can see why you're going with this filly.
Absolutely. And even in those races where she was well spotted, once she got back to what she wanted to do, that last race serves as a confidence builder in a sense. And, this is an entry-level allowance race. I think the field is real comparable that she faced last time in that tough $50,000 starter at Churchill late in the September meet. So I look forward to run big in a return to Keeneland today.
You get great value, too. 8-1 on the morning line on number 1, Take Charge Omaha in race number 4. Race 7 is the second race you've chosen. It is a maiden special weight with a purse of $110,000. Many of these youngsters just getting started with their careers. It is for the 2-year-old fillies, 6 furlongs on the main track. How'd you see race 7?
I'm going with number 4, Glova Rose, and she is listed as a 4-1 second choice on the morning line to an Al Stall runner with Tyler Gaffleone. There's a Brad Cox preferred stir by Curlin that's nodded to with Irad Ortiz Jr. But Glova Rose may certainly compete for favoritism. She's eligible to get bet down, but I still like her chances. This is a 12-horse field, like I said, with some big barns and some well-bred fillies in it. And this kind of horse that I'm going to play if the price is right, with number 4, Glova Rose, and look to single her in some multi-race wagers because this is a tough card today. Glova Rose is by Vekoma, who is siring first-out winners at a 22% clip, second-year sire. Her Damn Pink Twist won first time out, which I always like from a precocity angle. And this is the first starter out of Pink Twist. The Dam was a sister as well to a juvenile stakes winner. So there's win early breeding on both sides of these pedigrees. On both sides of the pedigree, and Glova Rose has been training really well. She's got a 5-furlong bullet work in preparation, shows some fast half-mile drills before Wesley stretched her out to 5 furlongs. And Wesley Ward, 5 for 16, entering, going into after the first 2 weeks or week and a half of the Keeneland meet. Just on a tear. Not only 5 for 16, but this is right up his wheelhouse with these debut and maiden special weight races. He's winning at a 28% clip from his last 194 starts. He's having a really good year, 23% win rate, Wesley Ward. And like I said, I look for Glova Rose to come out running for him in race 7 today.
Yeah, highly regarded at the sales, too. Paid $340K for this daughter of Vekoma. And if you can get 4-1 on a Wesley Ward firster, you always take it. Bet with both fists. We'll see if we can get that price on Glova Rose in race number 7. Race 8 is the final race that you have, final leg of the triple play that you have chosen, James. It's a mile and the 16th turf event with a purse of $140K. Another well-matched field. How'd you see this one?
Yeah, I'm going to take a shot at a price in here with a hot jockey, and it's going to be a horse on the far outside, number 9, Genius Jimmy, who's listed at 15-1 with John Velasquez, who's won 9 of his first 31 starts this meet, including a 5-win day on the big Saturday, first Saturday of the meet. But I wanted to say about Genius Jimmy, some horses don't take to the Kentucky Downs course, and he didn't get out of the gate real well when trying that Kentucky Downs Oval in a tough $500,000 handicap, and that pace was absolutely wicked. And once he didn't get that early positioning, he was chasing a hot pace, and he just sort of chucked it in. Well, this is the thing about today's race, Mike. I'm going to lean on that effort 2 starts back at Del Mar, that mile and the 16th allowance in the middle of July, where he produced a real sharp front-running win. This horse, to draw a line to that last effort, once again, that was, if you go back and look at his races where he's in these races where they go 48 or 47, he's okay. If they're going to be out there pushing in at 45, like they have in a couple of his races where he was 5th and 11th, he can be in a little bit of trouble. I look for an ideal up-close trip today. Doesn't necessarily have to be on the lead, but the 2 main speed horses are drawn way to the inside. And Genius Jimmy, I think, is going to get the trip from post 9. I like that he runs well fresh. His last 2 starts off of like a 45-day or more rest have produced a win in the next second. And this turf course, this meet, Mike, and we're going to get some rain tonight, but, I'm expecting, we'll still have these firm conditions, has played favorably to horses with some tactical ability. Genius Jimmy has it. I look for a good up-close trip, and I'm going to take a shot with him. One to consider as well for any vertical exotics if he's anywhere close to 15-1 at post time.
Yesterday, I spent an hour with trainer Madison Myers on my Trainer Talk show, and we talked about her 34-1 upset in the Sycamore Stakes earlier in the meet with John Velasquez aboard. You got 34-1 on Johnny V, which seems mind-boggling. Here you are picking a 15-1 morning line shot with Johnny V aboard. Maybe lightning strikes twice with this Hall of Fame jockey.
Yeah, absolutely, and I like the fact This horse, he had won before that last race at Kentucky Downs. I'm drawing a line through, and it was at a mile, which is a little bit short. He likes a mile on the 16th. He had produced 2 wins and a no second in his 3 previous starts. So he's been going good for Michael McCarthy, and I think he's set to rebound with a real strong showing today.
All right, let's recap James's TwinSpires triple play for this Saturday morning. Race 4 at Keeneland, he'll take number 1, Take Charge Omaha at odds of 8-1. Race 7, he'll go with number 4, Glow of a Rose at 4-1. And in race 8, another swing for the fences with number 9, Genius Jimmy at 15-1. James, you talked about the promotions going on at TwinSpires. Brisk, the place to be to get your past performances. It's all there. It's a one-stop shop for everybody.
Absolutely, and if you go to brisnet.com, we have a Breeders' Cup Ultimate Handicapping package. Includes past performances. We'll be updating it with when the fields are drawn, and all this other Breeders' Cup primer and handicapping reports, et cetera, et cetera. Check that out at brisnet.com, and like you said, check out our promotions at TwinSpires and handicapping events.
James, good luck with those 3 races and all the races you're going to be betting this weekend, my friend.
Thanks so much, Mike. Same to you. Best of luck.
All right, don't forget you can catch James Scully and Bobby Newman every Thursday here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. You can listen to them with the brisnet.com call-in show. They'll take your phone calls, answer your questions, so mark that on your calendar every single Thursday here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Poll question, or not poll question, I'll give you the poll question here later on, but the impossible trivia question for this morning. If you missed it in the first 2 hours of the show, I'm going to give it to you again. Which American jockey popularized the crouching, forward-leaning riding style still used today? Can you name that jockey? Interesting question from our producer, Lee Delapina. The answer coming your way, 10:55 Eastern in the final segment of the program. All right, still to come, Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History. That comes your way after this next commercial break. And Dale and Tim with I Ask, They Answer to wrap up the program at 10:30 Eastern. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Dear racing fans, we've been waiting for you. We've been working, prepping, training, putting together thrilling races, high stakes, favorite traditions, and fresh experiences. From right on the rail to the top of the hill. Whether it's your first meet or your 50th, we can't wait to welcome you back this fall. Love, Keeneland.
Tenda Equine and Pet Care products have been keeping world-class equine athletes happy and healthy for generations. Keep your equine athlete looking and performing well with Tenda Next Generation Wound and Skin Care Treatment, along with nutritional supplements, leg and muscle care products, salves, hoof care, poultice, topical aids, and grooming products. Visit tendahorse.com today.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. She was the most likely of champions, yet in a way she was the least likely. She had difficulty changing leads. She got disqualified twice after wins in prominent races, yet she earned an Eclipse Award as the nation's outstanding 3-year-old filly of 1987. Her name was Sakawista. Foaled on May 3, 1984 at Shawnee Farm of co-breeder G. Watts Humphrey Jr. in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, Sakawista was a bay filly by Raja Baba out of Nally's Flying Flag. Her paternal grandsire was Hall of Famer Bold Ruler, while her maternal grandsire, Hoist the Flag, was American champion 2-year-old colt of 1970. Bred also by William S. Farish of Lane's End Farm, Sakawista was offered in the Shawnee consignment at the 1985 Keeneland Summer Sales. Signing the purchase agreement for $670,000 was trainer D. Wayne Lucas on behalf of client Lloyd French Jr., an oil man from Midland, Texas. A second partner, Barry Beal, would join at a later date. Sacawista, as Lucas told it, was named for a clump of grass found in South Texas. He added that the clumps grew about a quarter-mile apart, that cows loved to graze on them. As for pedigree, Sacawista was often noted to be a half-sister to 1986 Belmont Stakes runner-up John's Treasure. Jeff Lucas, son of the trainer, took objection at one point, saying, "Someday they are going to refer to John's Treasure as the half-brother of Sacawista." It was a valid point, and one day that statement would be proved correct. But Sacawista descended from a long line of accomplished runners, and it was impressive to see them listed generation by generation. For example, her fifth dam, Escutcheon, won the Alabama Stakes at Saratoga in 1930 and produced 1937 Kentucky Oaks winner Mars Shield. Her fourth dam was the dam of 1957 champion 3-year-old filly Bayou. Third dam, Levy, produced 2-time champion older mare Chuvie. And second dam, Nally, was the dam of Irish St. Leger winner Minival. It was a family which had been good for decades. Sacawista won at second asking as a juvenile, cruising by 9 lengths in a maiden special weight at Hollywood Park on July 11, 1986. She then went east and won back-to-back graded stakes at Saratoga, capturing the 39th running of the Schuylerville and the 71st edition of the Adirondack. Sacawista then stepped into Grade 1 company, finishing runner-up in the Arlington-Washington Lassie before finishing second by a nose in the Del Mar Futurity against males. A breakthrough victory came in October in the Grade 1 Oakleaf at Santa Anita before a crowd of 38,000. But Sacawista would run fourth on the same track in her next outing as the beaten favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Sacawista concluded her freshman campaign with a runner-up finish in the Grade 1 Hollywood Starlet, a race in which she never changed leads, switching the leg with which she would reach farther forward in stride until deep stretch. It was a sign of more struggles to come as a 3-year-old. Running exclusively in graded stakes as a sophomore in 1987, Sacawista often finished in the money but struggled to find the winner's circle. And even when she won, she lost. Winless on the season, Sacawista went to Philadelphia Park for the Grade 3 Cotillion Handicap in September and crossed the wire first, only to be disqualified by the stewards. 2 weeks later, the same scenario repeated itself in the Grade 1 Ruffian Handicap at Belmont Park. First to the finish line, only to be disqualified. In each case, stewards ruled that Sacawista had committed interference in the stretch by awkwardly drifting from one lane to another. Those familiar with the filly said it was the same problem in each case. She was a big filly with a long stride looking for more room to change leads. But Sacawista got a new jockey for the Grade 1 Spinster at Keeneland in October, as Randy Romero took her wire to wire for her first official win of the season. 3 weeks later, Romero was again in the saddle for the 1.25 mile Breeders' Cup Distaff at Hollywood Park. Tom Durkin with the call. And here she comes, a quarter mile up. Sacawista set down for the drive. She leads by 2.5 lengths as they come to the final furlong. Clever Girl attacks on the outside. Second Infinidad still 6 lengths back. They're in the final furlong. Randy Romero putting her up to Sacawista, trying to hold on with her. Clever Girl can't get to her. They're running out of ground, and it's going to be Sacawista wire to wire. In another wire-to-wire performance, Sacawista won the distaff and cemented honors as Eclipse champion 3-year-old filly. She would retire the following year with a career slate of 6 wins from 21 starts and $1.2 million in earnings. Her most notable offspring as a broodmare were Italian Group 1 winner Ecrar and Australian and Chilean champion sire Hussein. Her last foal was born in 2008. We remember Sacawista, the filly who struggled to change leads yet became a champion, using a win in Keeneland Spinster Stakes as a springboard to Breeders' Cup glory. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
Thanks, Kurt, for that story. If you missed it, go to our website to check out the podcast of every Stroll Through Racing History. And don't forget while you're there to check out our Trainer Talk presented by Fasig-Tipton and sign up for our email newsletters to stay up to date on the latest news and guests set to appear on our shows. Dale and Tim coming up next with I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Top consignor Scott Mallory is offering an exciting November lineup, starting at Fasig-Tipton with Weanlings by Forte and Gunite, both out of multiple stakes-producing female families. At Keeneland, the Scott Mallory consignment features exciting Weanlings by Yopon, Jackie's Warrior, Loggins, Zandon, and Taba, as well as mares in foal to first-year sires Seize the Gray, Muth, Kingsbarns, Blazing Sevens, and Domestic Product, and established sires McLean's Music, Violence, and Authentic. There's something for every buyer at the Scott Mallory November consignments.
His sire is one of the most exciting young stallions in the world. His dam has become one of the most important brood mares in the industry. And on the first Saturday in May, his genetic brilliance shined brightest on racing's biggest stage.
They come into the final 16th, and it is going to be Mage to win the Kentucky Derby.
Mage, standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
Send your mare to Maryland. After she foals here, breed to one of our stallions, and your 2025 foal is eligible to be a registered Maryland bred, giving you the opportunity to earn significant bonuses. And beginning with 2-year-olds of 2025, Maryland bred and Maryland sired horses will earn 40% higher breeder bonuses than out-of-state sired runners. Maryland, a foundation of greatness, a bright future ahead. Learn more at MarylandThoroughbred.com.
Hi, this is Kurt Becker. Join me each week on the Equine Forum as I take you on a stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. This week, I look back at the racing career of Sakawista. Listen live on the Equine Forum every Saturday morning on Sirius 162 or XM 207, or visit our website at horseracingradio.net to access the archives and enjoy past editions. It's a stroll through racing history with me, Kurt Becker, presented by Keeneland, only here on HRRN.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
Christopherson puts his head in front with a quarter of a mile to go. Desert Gate comes right back for more. Desert Gate, Christopherson. Desert Gate has the lead at the top of the stretch. Has to finish the job by Juan Hernandez now and opens up 2 with 1 furlong to go. Here's Plutarch along the inside, trying to challenge him in second. Intrepido running a good race, 16th pole. It's Desert Gate. Plutarch on the inside, hugs the rail and just keeps coming at him. Plutarch on the outside. Intrepido erupts, and Intrepido and Hector Barrios took off the final 16th to win the American Pharoah, presented by DK Horse over Plutarch and Desert Gate.
That's Frank Miramati with the call of Intrepido, punching his ticket to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile with that win in the American Pharoah. But are Dale and Tim buying him as a legitimate player in that race? Plus, are the connections of a couple of promising juvenile winners making the right or wrong decision to skip the Breeders' Cup? And Dale and Tim will tell you what first got them hooked on this great sport of thoroughbred racing. All of that and much, much more is straight ahead on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin, and all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. And it all starts just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. Located in the heart of horse country, let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
All right, the Breeders' Cup just a few weeks away. We have the retirement of a Horse of the Year to discuss on the show this morning. A couple of listener-submitted questions. Lots of things to get to, but we begin our first topic with buy or sell. Last week, we took a look at the horses who came out of the races in Kentucky that will move on to the Breeders' Cup. Today, we look at a New York, California contingent heading to the Breeders' Cup World Championships. And, guys, if you recall, last week we started this segment with Claiborne Breeders' Futurity winner Ted Naufy. How about we kick off this week by taking a look at one of his expected rivals in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile? Are you buying or selling American Pharoah winner Intrepido? We just heard the call from Frank Miramati. Tim, buy or sell?
I'm buying. And I'll tell you why. Obviously, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile has been owned by Bob Baffert. He's won 6 times. He's probably going to have a bunch of them in this race. But if you look, looking historically at the Juvenile, you've got horses that have surprised in this race. You go back to the last 2 winners. I mean, Citizen Bull was 15-1. Fierceness was 16-1. Go down the line, Good Magic was 11-1. Street Sense, 15-1. Horses surprised in this race. The last 20 years, there's only been 5 favorites that have won. And this horse is not going to be a favorite. He overcame trouble in the American Pharoah, got a really good education in his 3rd start. I think he can be a factor in this race.
I'm selling. I think that, and it's no knock on the horse. I just think that the juvenile winner is going to come out from the East Coast this year. And I'll tell you what, I think it's coming out of the juvenile at Keeneland. I think it'll either be Ted Naufy or Blackout Time. I think he could step up and improve off the race at Keeneland.
Is there such a thing, Dale, as a home field advantage for the horses based in California, not having to make the pilgrimage to another racetrack to compete?
It used to seem like it was a lot more than it is now. I mean, you see a lot of East Coast horses go out there and do well in the Breeders' Cup. I know just before Breeders' Cup, they said you either need to go in really early or right on top of the race, one of the two, but don't be out there 2 weeks. But I don't know that if it's easier to ship now, the flights are easier or what it is, but there doesn't seem to be as much home court advantage.
How are you playing it with Bob Brofsky?
We're flying out on the 21st. Just wanted to make sure I got on a plane and got out there, and I like going a little bit earlier.
Let him get acclimated. Intrepido, interesting, the American Pharoah winner, taking on the likes of Ted Naufy and some of those other horses coming from the East Coast. Guys, we're going to talk about another juvenile from New York who is not going to make the trip after a big win. We'll do that later in the program, but let's move on to this next topic. We discussed Darley Alcibiades winner Tommy Joe during this segment a week ago. Tim was a buyer, Dale was selling. How about one of her rivals in the juvenile fillies, Explora, who rolled to a 4-length win in the Oakleaf for trainer Bob Baffert? Timmy, I think I know the answer. Buy or sell?
Why do you think you know the answer?
Because the person I just mentioned at the end of the question.
You can't go against Bob Baffert. And if you do, if you do this time, it's only trying to show us that you can do it.
No, now listen. I am gonna sell this one, and I'll tell you why in a second.
I'm telling Bob.
No, because I think there's another Bob Baffert horse in here that'll be more of a challenge to Tommy Joe, and that's Bottle of Rouge, who is owned by Bob Baffert's wife, Jill. I think the family wants to get this one home before they want to get Explora home. So I'm going to sell this one and take the other one. No, nothing wrong with Explorer. I mean, took off the blinkers in the last one, came from off the pace, was impressive. But Bottle of Rouge beat that horse, Explorer, in the Del Mar Debutante earlier in September. And she's going right into the Breeders' Cup from that race, training up to this event. So, yeah, I like that one more than the other one.
So you're going with the happy wife, happy life handicapping philosophy.
That's what I'm doing. So I'm still picking a Baffert horse to be a factor in this race, even though I think Tommy Joe's the horse to beat. But, yeah, I'm going it that way. See if Dale can top that one.
That was pretty good. That was pretty diplomatic on your part, but I'm going to buy this old filly. I think she improved with the equipment change, and she's going the right direction. And that's what the Breeders' Cup's all about, who's peaking at the right time.
No, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. How about Phil D'Amato's Ontario-bred winner of the Rodeo Drive? That's Mission of Joy. She upset that race at odds of 11-1. Tim, are you buying or selling that she can do it again in the Filly and Mare Turf?
I'm selling this one. This Mission of Joy, the 5-year-old mare, she's never really been getting in. She started her career with Grand Motion. The last 3 starts have been with Phil D'Amato, and she's gone off at double-digit odds each time. The waters get a lot deeper in when you head to the Breeders' Cup, and and more than half of the winners since 1999, I think, have been Euros. So she got a nice win the other day. I don't think it happens again.
Yeah, I'm selling. I don't. Yeah, she got her day in the sun, but this is a totally different ball game. This will be a tough race, I think.
Yeah, it's always tough. And Tim mentions the Europeans that are coming for those turf races. They're always a handful. How about one more? How about another turf juvenile this time, Timmy? Bottas, who got up, or Botis, I think is how you pronounce the name, got up in time to take the Grade 2 Pilgrim by a head as the favorite for trainer Miguel Clement. He's now a perfect 2 for 2 to begin his career. Buying or selling Botis?
This is a lukewarm sell. Well, he's a little slow on the trigger today, isn't he?
I don't know. I think he hit that one pretty well on time. No?
I don't know. He kind of interrupted Dale on his last one. I think he's...
Yeah, I didn't like that. Yeah.
Botis.
Lee, give yourself a horn, Lee.
Well, Botis is, I don't know if anyone knows, but it's named for the Formula One driver Valtteri Bottas. And, yeah, both of the wins have come at a mile and 16th. The turf is about a mile. Again, you got the Europeans who have won this race 13 of 18 times, I think. It's a European-dominated event, and I just think our horses are always up against it here. So this one would have to run, in a short career, have to run the race of her life. Can it happen? Yes. Will I think it'll happen? No.
Miguel's second-generation French, so we'll give him the European win in this race. I like the horse. I'm buying. That's close enough to be a European horse. That's a good horse. I mean, anytime you win your first 2 starts going long, it's pretty impressive. I think this is a nice horse with a big future.
Well, it all sets up what is going to be a compelling 2 days of racing at the Breeders' Cup World Championships, and I'm sure we'll be spending more time buying or selling other aspects of the Breeders' Cup as we get closer over the next few weeks. But, guys, let's dive into topic number 2 as we say hello to our good friend Nick Zito, and you get to tell me if the following statements are right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
We begin with Churchill Downs, who announced this week they are expanding the European and Middle East Road to the Kentucky Derby by adding additional points races to those schedules. You have the UAE 2000 Guineas at Meydan on January 23rd, the Saudi Derby on February 14th, and the Dubai Road to the Kentucky Derby Stakes at Meydan on February 20th. Is this the right or wrong move on the part of Churchill Downs?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Dale?
I don't like it. I don't mind getting one horse and I understand making it a global event, but one horse is enough. With the changes, you could have a couple of horses coming out of the Middle East, and they don't even bet over there. So I understand the Japanese angle. At least they put up their money and bet on them when they run here. No, one from each place was fine, but if we get 2 or 3 and knock a good American horse out, I don't like it.
But as far as the rules go, aren't there 2 spots reserved for the European and Middle East if they want them? And I think there's 1 for Japan, which I agree with Dale. I think it's too many. I still think if you want to compete in our big race, you come over here and get points the way the other horses do. I mean, it's done before, man. A couple years ago, Manzarian Hero ran the Santa Anita Derby and got in when he finished second. It's a practical move. So it's been done before. You want to run in our big race, come over here and get the points. And I know that there's talk about the discussion about how tough it is with the quarantine and all that, and how long you can stay here. But there's got to be a way around it if they want to make the rules to have foreign horses in here. Let them come over here and compete in our races. That's what I think.
Yeah, I guess that's a similar take, Timmy, to what we had a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the fillies potentially being able to face the boys in the Kentucky Derby. They have to run in the male points races to get the points to get into the Derby. It's not good enough to dominate the filly races and earn enough points there. That doesn't do you any good if you're going to try to compete against the boys on the first Saturday in May.
Correct.
Yeah, it should be the best 23-year-olds in the country lining up.
And that would include horses from overseas or from the Middle East, Dale, if, as Tim said, they come over and they compete in the American road to the Kentucky Derby races.
Yeah, I understand what they're trying to do, the marketing of a global event like NFL's doing. I hate that game on Sunday mornings myself, but I guess it makes economic sense, but you don't have to like it.
All right, well, how about this next one then? 2-year-old colt, Further Ado, broke his maiden by a whopping 20 lengths on October 10th at Keeneland, earning a 114 Equibase speed figure. Guys, that's the highest of any 2-year-old this year. His owner, Spendthrift Farm, trainer Brad Cox, have decided not to send the talented son of Gunrunner to California for the Breeders' Cup, but instead they'll point to the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes at Churchill this fall. Do you like that decision? Are they right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Timmy.
I like it. I liked it a lot. Far be it for me to judge what Brad Cox is doing with his horses. I mean, this horse, he ran the hole in the wind in his third start, and maybe he's not ready yet to take on the challenge of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And there's so many horsemen now that want to have they're promising 2-year-olds ready for a 3-year-old campaign. They don't want them to be peaking as a 2-year-old. So why not wait? Look at and there's no guarantee that after he wins by 20 he's going to run a hole in the wind again in the Breeders' Cup. I mean, look what happened with the Tom Ames horse. At their time made by 17 lengths in Saratoga and then got beat by 8 lengths in the Champagne. And Dale knows that, there's no things happen in these races when you have a horse that is supposedly a big favorite. Remember Dennis's moment, and I remember that was one of the crushing moments of Dale's career. But, I think they're doing the right thing by waiting. Huh?
I said, thanks for bringing it up. I was having a good day.
Well, I thought you'd bring it up anyway, wouldn't you, in this segment?
No, I'm taking a whole different angle at this question. First of all, yes, they're doing the right thing. A horse runs that big a figure, needs a lot of time between races, that are giving more time to get him ready. But most importantly, it makes me think that they're pretty sure Ted Nalpy's going to run a huge race. It's not like that they're skipping the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Just one of their horses is skipping the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Yeah, that's a good angle there. How about Napoleon Solo? Here's a horse with a whole different situation. Wins the Grade 1 Champagne Stakes at Aqueduct and has decided not to move on to the Breeders' Cup. Instead, going to point for a 3-year-old campaign. Are they doing the right thing there?
You never second guess what a trainer and owners are doing, and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes with a horse like that. He may have come out there with some shins or something they don't want to talk about, but they know what they're doing. But you remember, you go back a long time ago to the beginning of the Breeders' Cup, Woody Stevens didn't run 49er because he didn't believe that you could run a horse that late into the fall and still be a competitive for the Derby. I know a lot of things have changed, but there's been that mentality around for a long time. He ended up running second in the Derby anyway. He didn't win it, but
historically, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile has not produced a ton of Derby winners. I mean, it's only been 2 horses that have won the Juvenile that came back to win the Derby. And, of course, we all know who they are. I don't have to tell you guys, right? You all know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chris,
is this a trivia question?
Sure we know. The question is, does the crowd know? So we'll let you tell them.
It's Street Sense and Nyquist.
That's it.
Yeah, we knew that. We just didn't. We want you to be able to tell our listeners.
Uh-huh. And there's other Derby winners that have won the Derby that ran in the Juvenile. Can you tell me who those are?
I could, but I'm going to let you tell the people.
There's 4 of them. There's 4 horses that ran in the Juvenile that came back to win. That didn't win the Juvenile that came back to win the Derby.
Okay, I'm going to let you tell everybody who they are.
Anybody? Not Mike? Nothing?
It's not as fun if we give out the answer because we already know it, Timmy. So it's better if you
guys
give it out.
Well, and if you guys already know, I don't have to tell anybody.
All right, let's move on. Next subject. You want to leave your people hanging like that? Go ahead.
Your fans aren't going to like that, Timmy.
Yeah.
They'll learn to live with it.
All right.
All right. Well, we'll bring Nick back for that segment again next week. Right or wrong? Was it right or wrong for Tim Wilkin not to give that out here this morning? We'll let the listeners debate
gives it
that
out before the show's over.
You're a wise man.
Mm-hmm. That's a great final moment.
Geez, boy,
I hate
am I
to
that
bust
predictable?
your bubble, Tim, but I know what you're up to.
Well, guys, let me ask you this question. It comes from Tom in St. Louis. As a matter of fact, the next 3 topics, and we're going to have to move through them kind of quickly, but the next 3 topics come from listeners. Tom in St. Louis was watching the races from Newmarket last week, and he noticed there were no assistant starters in the gate. And he wants to know exactly what the assistant starters do from the time a horse gets loaded until the race starts. So, Dale, enlighten us, my friend.
They just keep their heads straight and keep them calm. You'll see them patting them on the head sometimes and keeping them calm and good. But, that's probably not a bad rule. It's a rule in Europe that they don't have starters, and their gates are a lot smaller over there. I don't even think a man would fit up in there with them. And their theory is that no one can interfere with the outcome of the race, where a starter could actually hold a horse in the gate and make him get off slow. But our jocks like it. I like it. It does seem to help the horse relax. I don't think we have as many gate scratches for acting up as they do in Europe. You know what else is strange about Europe, I think, is that they'll scratch a horse, say he's number 5. They'll take him out, not change the gate, not change the order, and just let him break with an open number 5.
Do you like that?
I don't know. I think I do. I think I kind of do. I don't think, because if we have one scratch, well, then you take everybody out of the gate, you change the numbers on the gate, you reload. Just leave them lined up. Let them break.
Timmy, we used to have a segment here on the program called Unsung Heroes, and I would interview people in the game that did great work behind the scenes that don't find themselves in the spotlight very often, if at all. And some of those segments were done with people who worked on the starting gate. And the stories that those folks could tell is pretty remarkable when you think about I think it's one of the more dangerous jobs on the racetrack, but it's a very difficult job to do.
Oh, it certainly is.
When I was 16 years old, I got offered that job at Ellis Park. It was paying $50 a day. I thought $50 a day is great, and my father wouldn't let me do it. He said I was too slow. I'd get killed in there.
I remember
I'd probably still be working on the gate. I would have liked that job.
But then you wouldn't be on this show.
I know. And then one of the guys that gets paid a little extra every day, they call him he rubs the gate. He used to groom at the gate. He's the guy that changes all the numbers up above and makes sure everything's ready to go. So you got to work your way up to that. And then another thing they do, people, I know the last guy, the guy that loads the last horse is always the same guy.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah. And then there's some guys, that when they can be with anybody, there's certain jocks, like there's certain handler in there. Now, they can't always get them, but they always try to, and you'll see that happen a lot.
I remember in 1980 was my first year at Saratoga in the Whitney. There was a New York bred horse named Fiorito who broke through the gate and one of the assistant starters grabbed him. And if he didn't grab him, I'm guaranteeing he would have been scratched. He ended up coming back and winning the race. So the assistant starter saved the race for Fiorito that day. It was one of the coolest things I ever saw.
Yeah, I've seen them get drug out, and they hang on. They do a good job. They just started in the last few years having to wear helmets and vests working the gate.
And true unsung heroes. There's no doubt about it. They do wonderful work, and a lot of the things they do you don't even hear about. Just wonderful people and a wonderful aspect that makes our game so successful. Guys, a couple more quick topics to get to. Rick in Sacramento sent in a note via email and says, oftentimes when I am interviewing a guest on some of my shows, I will ask them how they first got into racing. Well, this morning, Rick flips it around, and he wants to know how each of us became interested. So, Dale, I'm going to start with you here. You were obviously born into the game with your dad being a trainer, but was there something aside from that circumstance that made you want to make a living in the sport?
Yeah, I've never not known being around the racetrack. I mean, like my mother tells me, she took me in my barn at Churchill Downs. I was 9 months old, so that's 58 years ago. And but I will say this. When I started really getting hooked was Seattle Slew 77 Derby when I went to my first Kentucky Derby. And then I just started following Seattle Slew. I was 9 years old, and I loved that horse and thought it was that's when I really saw it as not only what Dad did, but something cool.
Timmy?
Oh, man. I grew up in Rochester, New York, and the only racetrack that was really close was Finger Lakes. I never really followed Finger Lakes much. I mean, my mother used to watch the Belmont Stakes every year, and I'm sure she watched the Derby and the Preakness too. But she also was the one that sort of hooked me on it to watch it with her. And she would tell me stories about when she was a kid, when a teenager, when being up at Saratoga and getting thrown the blanket that Whirlaway wore. And I think I've told this story before, but she gave it to her sister's husband, and he was a horse player, and he burned it because he thought it was bad luck. So God knows if it was true or not. But it was a story that still lives in lore in our family. But, yeah, I and then when I came up to Saratoga, got my first job at a newspaper in Saratoga, I covered horse racing, got hooked right from the start. I mean, it's a sport that, from my perspective, if you can't get a story at the racetrack, you're in the wrong business, because there's stories everywhere at a racetrack. Not always good ones, but there's stories everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, mine goes back to the 1989 Travers and sitting at the picnic tables at the top of the stretch at Saratoga, watching Easy Goer win that race. I'm sure I had been to the races with my dad before that, but that moment is the moment that really hooked me. I think I had $2 across the board on Easy Goer, and I got back $1.40 profit on that bet, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever been part of. So thanks to Shug McGahee and Easy Goer for what they did to get me hooked on the sport of thoroughbred racing.
Been good to us all.
You probably thought you were the richest man in America that day, Mike.
I did. I walked out of there walking a little taller, as they say, Timmy. Yeah. Okay, we've got to get to our final thought of the week here, our final point of the week. But before we do, Shane in North Carolina asked about Torpedo Anna. We're just going to say farewell to the champion. We don't really have a whole lot of time to dedicate to discussing her career. Maybe we can work that in next week. But 12 of 16 wins, $5.4 million in earnings, Horse of the Year. She's going to be a wonderful broodmare as well. So farewell to the Horse of the Year and champion Torpedo Anna. Showdown 4 update. It's still Dale, 81-54 over Tim. I'm sitting 30 points behind with 51. No shot to catch Dale here. It's down to Timmy to try to pull off a miracle at the Breeders' Cup. We will see how this all unfolds, but Dale's holding all the cards. Tim, give us your final point of the week, my friend.
Okay, I do believe in miracles. And if you really want to know the answer to that question, the 4 horses that ran in the juvenile, that didn't win the juvenile, that came back to win the Derby, were Spend a Buck, Ali Sheba, Sea Hero, and Mind That Bird.
I just want to apologize to Tim for busting his bubble. I should have let you go on and play it out, but it was pretty simple to figure out what you were up to. And it's a beautiful day in Kentucky. I can't be any better than this.
Guys, appreciate it. We're going to do this all over again next Saturday. Enjoy the weekend.
Right, guys, next week.
All right, enjoy the weekend. If you have a topic you want Dale and Tim to discuss, do what so many of you have done over the past several months. Email them to me, and we'll get them worked into the program for you. I Ask, They Answer is presented by the University of Louisville, Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. I'm back with more and the answer to this week's impossible trivia question next. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment. Email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Well, John, the stage is set for the final transaction.
That's right, Joe. Heather's moment has arrived, and you just hope all that training pays off.
Heather lays down her purchase, but Randy rings it up as slowly as he can.
He is a wily veteran.
It gives Heather's eyes the chance to wander.
Uh-oh.
Yep, she's looking at the cigarettes.
There's nothing good back there. Quit now, and in 5 years, your odds of getting certain cancers drop 50%.
Meanwhile, Randy's stone-faced. He's giving nothing away. He just stands there, wetting his cashier's finger on that sponge.
Heather toes the rubber.
Here we go. Heather's arm is in motion. But instead of pointing at the back wall, she just grabs the gum off the counter.
That's a slick move.
Heather back. She is out of there. Even Randy tips his cap to Heather. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally wants you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Dear VetTix, it was nice to spend the night with my daughter and other veterans. It's so humbling to attend an event when you feel appreciated.
I had a wonderful time with my family. Thank you for the memories, VetTix.
Dear VetTix, thank you for a great experience and for your support of the military and veterans.
Thank you so much, VetTix. Our family has gone through a lot the last few years, and this gave us a nice break.
Every empty seat at a concert, game, or special event is a missed opportunity to say thank you to a veteran or a service member. By giving your extra tickets to VetTix, you'll help America's heroes reduce stress, strengthen family bonds, and create a truly happy memory that will last a lifetime. So when you really want to say thank you for your service, give the experience. Give the memory. VetTix. Give something to those who gave. For more information on how you can make a difference, go to vettix.org.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Dazzling move is underway. She's within 6 lengths of Torpedo Anna, who ran 6 furlongs in 1:11.1. Torpedo Anna turns for home with Darth Vader in hot pursuit, a length back second. These two past the 8th pole together. Brian Hernandez Jr. riding for his life on Torpedo Anna, trying to fend off this huge bid from Darth Vader. It's Torpedo Anna. Darth Vader's coming at her. Torpedo Anna, Darth Vader. Here's the live photo finish. Torpedo Anna and Darth Vader hit the wire together in the personal ensign.
Wow. Fantastic. Frank Miramati with the call of that personal ensign win by Torpedo Anna. When everybody was doubting if she was still the same Torpedo Anna, she guts out a nose victory that day. The 10th graded stakes of her career. She is now retired Ken McPeak sending out the statement earlier this week. She was examined by veterinarians, including Dr. Bramlage at Rood & Riddle. She's fine. They did find some very mild bone bruising, which is consistent with horses in work at her level, and she could go back to training in 90 days, but they've opted to retire her. She will now reside at John Sakura's Hillendale Farms at Alapa in Lexington, and it's going to be wonderful to see her babies on the racetrack. Farewell, Horse of the Year, Torpedo Anna. Time now to check in with our Lee Delapina. He does have the answer to this week's impossible trivia question.
Thank you, Mike. Which American jockey popularized the crouching, forward-leaning riding style used today? That was Todd Sloan, elected to the National Racing Hall of Fame in 1955.
Did you get that one? Boy, that was a difficult question to answer. I hope you got it right. I want to remind you that we are coming down to the home stretch of the Breeders' Cup, and your home for all of the Breeders' Cup action is indeed Blood Horse. I tell you that all the time, how good Blood Horse is. You can go to bloodhorse.com. You can download the Blood Horse Daily. All of those types of things are available for you, delivered straight to your inbox every evening, packed with breaking news, race results, analysis, and much, much more. What a show. Busy show. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed having you along for the ride. My thanks to our producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studios, Chauncey for handling all of our social media, to all of you for tuning in, and to all of our guests who made this show possible here today. Enjoy the weekend. Happy racing. Oh, yeah. Why not? Go Steelers.